make a start? Good morning. Welcome to the Caithness Area Committee meeting. This meeting will be recorded and will be available on the Highland Council's website for 12 months. The Caithness Committee is the only public council meeting in Caithness, and it gives the public the opportunity to see how members and officers work together and how decisions are made. In Caithness, we're different from other areas in that members and officers meet regularly for catch-up and discussions. This was something that was started last term, and we have continued this practice because we believe it is beneficial to both members and officers. I am fortunate as chair that I have two vice chairs who are also provosts of our towns to assist me, and we also meet regularly. And of course, we also have experienced members to call upon and input into meetings. Plus, we have a hard-working ward manager to support us. There's a lot of hard work to get meaningful papers to the committee, and I would like to thank the officers for the papers and our ward manager who pulls the whole thing together. We are working on getting standing items to future committee meetings, but are experiencing a bit of difficulty in getting some of the reports, but we'll just see how it goes. So we'll move on now to apologies. If we have any apologies recorded.
There's an apology from Councillor McEwen.
Okay, that's fine. We'll record that one. Thank you. On to item 3, the minutes. They were circulated for noting. They were approved by full council. Are members content that they are a true record reflection of the meeting? I think we're getting a nods there. Yep, thank you. Thank you. Move on now to item 5, business area housing allocations.
Chair, Councillor Rosie has his hand up.
Oh, sorry, I'm not seeing that. Sorry, Carl.
No, it's no problem. Thank you and good morning. If you don't mind, Chair, can I just ask a question on your opening remarks? And correct me if I'm wrong. You made you just outlined what Caithness Committee is for and what we endeavour to do. So I guess I've got just a point to make and a question. I think you made a point that you're having difficulty in bringing reports forward. If we could just, if you could elaborate on that in a wee bit, because I think that's important. A little bit gently make a point. I think it's important that we recognise that we're now in year 2 of a 5-year tenure as councillors. And I think it's in regard to the agenda that we have. I think there are many items that we have in the past discussed, and I don't think the agenda reflects that today. So, it comes back to the point you made, that look, we perhaps should have wider discussion as members. But I don't think the agenda, personally, I don't think it reflects that we're thinking strategically on a range of topics that we do, never mind planning strategically. So, look, I make those points in good faith. I would just like to get some clarification on them. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Carl. Yeah, yes, we are working on a long-term plan, and there are obviously items that do reoccur coming up, and we, as I mentioned before, the vice chairs and myself, we have met, and we are actually working on to get an agenda out before the actual committee meeting, and we'll also welcome input from members as to what they would like on the input. I've spoke to other area chairs, and they have experienced a similar problem and trying to get some of the papers in on time. So basically, we are working on the future plans for committee meetings that will be coming up. I don't know if that's any help, Carl, or no.
Yeah, I think we should be able to try and give the public some some assurance, you know, that we made fairly solemn commitments just over a year ago during election periods and how we're going to work together. So, you know, I think we should have a plan, an outline plan in place. But look, we can discuss it, and I appreciate you giving the update. I see other hands up, Ron. I'll maybe give way meantime. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Struan, you want to come in?
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Carl. I actually no, I really do agree with Carl. I think in terms of the kind of broad overall requirement for us to all have agenda items that are coming forward that are relevant. And the one thing I would definitely say is that when both myself and Jan, as the vice chairs of the committee, had a chat with Ron, not that long ago, maybe a number of weeks ago, the reports or the standing items that come forward to committee, the agenda was actually, there was nothing on it. And that to me is a worrying thing, that there are standing items that we're struggling to get to committee, because those standing items, although I know they can be an incredibly frustrating experience for members, because quite often we, you know, my frustration with local area committees is we're often asked to attend and note things. We don't make decisions. We're not necessarily feeding into the process. We're here to nod and agree to officer recommendations or what have been done. But even those have been a struggle to get to committee, and I think there is a wider issue there, Carl. So, you know, I think that's why it's really important that Ron is the chair, and I think Raymond as the leader as well has mentioned this before, trying to make sure that the stuff that we absolutely need to come in front of us to be scrutinised is coming. It's coming in a timely manner and it makes sense. The second element is trying to make sure that contemporary stuff comes forward, and this is where, you know, I think I'll give our ward manager a lot of credit. It can sometimes be herding cats a little bit, but we've managed to get a number of agenda items here today that are contemporary, that are important for committee to discuss and have a visible public decision attached to them. None more so than the item that will be coming up on Thurso High School, which all of our constituents are asking about. They're wanting to know what the progress is, but we're also being asked to have a look at some of the options and have that in a public forum. So I think we are, in some small way, making a little bit of headway there. But I think you're absolutely right, Karen, saying we can do more. And I think from my perspective as a vice chair, I'm sure Ron agrees, we are wanting to do more. And what I think we can promise you is that we're going to try and have this dialogue earlier, because there's no point in us running around a week or so before a committee to try and get things in. It's trying to set it out in a little bit longer term. And that's where I think the local authority can potentially help here, with Ron working with his other chairs across the Highland region, because there are a number of items, particularly on some of the strategic stuff, that quite frankly we should be able to kind of book into maybe not the next area committee, but the one after that. And maybe we need the update in 2 years' time. We can start putting the building blocks there going forward. So yeah, I think I absolutely take on board what you're saying, and my hope would be that this is an example of us at least taking a step in the right direction, but hopefully some of those kind of standardized, kind of regularly tabled items can also come forward in a little bit more regular fashion, quite frankly, so we can get on with our job at scrutinising the work of the council, but also try and influence the strategy and what we're trying to do to get better outcomes for our constituents as well. So thanks, Chair, and thanks, Carl.
Thanks, Struan. There's another hand up there. Is that Finlay, is it?
Thanks, Chair. It was just the fact you'd maybe gone on to item 5. I'm not sure. You said, had you seen item 4 was Thurso High, and we were just hoping to pick that up at the start of the meeting if we could, Chair. Thank you.
Yes, that was my mistake. I was too keen to get going there. Yes. Yes. Thanks for that. Does anybody else want to? Struan, is your hand still up or?
Yeah, it was just on declarations of interest, Chair. Item 2, I think it was. Apologies. I don't know if we've gone over that already.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yeah. We didn't actually cover that one. Sorry. Yes. Is there any members are asked to consider whether there are any declarations of interest on any items? Struan, you're back up.
Yeah, and I'm also conscious that we sit on lots of different boards, Ron, as the councillor, so there's an awful lot. I know we're being asked to homologate essentially the outputs from the ward discretionary award application, so it's just under item 11 as a non-executive director of the Ormley Community Association, who were a beneficiary of a ward discretionary award application. in this term. I did not sit. I excused myself from discussions around the OC being given the award and was not taking part or did not vote on the award. But just for complete transparency, I am a director of that organisation and they have been a beneficiary.
Okay, thank you, Stu. And as you quite rightly says, Caithness being a small area, most of us are involved in other organisations. I don't think we'll actually be going through each individual thing, so we'll see. So there shouldn't have any actually declarations made for that, but I know what you say anyway, Stu. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Okay, folks, we shall move on now to item 4, Thurso High School update. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, members, and firstly, apologies for the late distribution of the report last week. Hopefully you've had time to consider it, but yeah, we'll hopefully get a chance to go through it today and pick up on any issues arising. So the report sets out the 4 options that we'd asked our engineers to look at. And I think it's important with any issues such as this on a school campus that we don't just look at this in isolation. I think we have to have one eye on the future and what the best long-term options are for the overall campus. So as we say there, for under option 4, that would be knock down and rebuild the extension. But I think there's the cost of that would have to be considered, but also, is that the best long-term option? I think looking at the age of some of the buildings on the campus and limited life of some of those buildings, we do need to look at the longer-term master plan. And I know there's a capital review underway at the moment and money is tight, but I think it'd be wrong not to look at what the best long-term option is, which I think, ideally would be a completely new campus to replace the high school, potentially perhaps looking at some of the primary schools as well, whether a 3 to 18 campus would be the best option, and also what other options are there for co-location of services. But at this stage, we're recommending demolition of the block. Mothballing would be an option, but I think, for the reasons that we've highlighted in the report, we're not recommending that we do that. I think it would only deteriorate further. It might make demolition more problematic in the future if the building did deteriorate as well. So we've set out the 4 basic options there. We're recommending that we demolish the block as the interim measure. We do have modular accommodation that's underway, and we've awarded the contract for that now, so that those modular classrooms will be in place from October. There are temporary modular classrooms that are there at the moment that to fill the gap. But yeah, so that's our recommendation, that's our approach, and happy to take any questions on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I've got a couple of points, but first of all, before I really look at anything else, when you say there's a broader master plan and looking at a new campus in the bigger picture, whereabouts are we in the roadmap towards that? Because as you know, we have these discussions all across the Highlands very often about new schools and getting things on the plan, and we know they are 10 years plus from conception to delivery of first drawings. So thinking realistically, just as a first question initially, how far down that path are we?
Okay, thank you. Very early stages. I mean, we've only just started looking at ourselves. We will need to engage more widely with the members, the schools, communities as well. But yeah, I mean, we've just recently published updated school roll forecasts, and obviously there is concerns, I think, long term about birth rates and various other demographic factors that we'll need to include in that review. So yeah, very early stages, but I think if we get the go ahead today really to go ahead with this recommended option, I think we'd start to engage more widely on that with all the various stakeholders, including members, school staff, parent councils, etc.
Okay.
Can I come back in there, Chair?
Yes, come back in. Yeah.
Thanks. I just wanted to answer to that question first of all, so I know I can respond right. I mean, to me, looking at this, option 4 would seem to be the most sensible option to go with. I think we need a bit of a reality check. yes, these bigger projects are nice. Yes, they can save money in the long term, but they are very, very long term. When I first joined this council 6-7 years ago, we thought we were on the cusp of finally building Tain Academy. And now we're, just again on the cusp of finally we might get round to it. These things take an extraordinary long amount of time to actually get through. And, in my experience, Caithness has never been at the top of, the priority list for much, if anything, for major capital projects. So I would find it hard to walk away from doing what's the right thing now and replacing a building that is needed, and it seems to me 1.2 million to demolish it, that's a lot of money to spend to get nothing. Just think, what would 1.2 million pounds do for the roads in Caithness? It would transform them, but we're going to spend the same amount of money to take away something. It seems slightly illogical not to just go the extra mile, spend the extra 6 million, and actually replace a building. And when we look at the costs of some of the school estate things, projects on the capital plan, they are extortionate. And to me, an extra £6 million seems like some of the best return bang for buck investment that you could possibly get across the Highlands full stop, let alone something that wouldn't just be a fair replacement for Caithness, but I think possibly be something better with a newer interior and a better environment. And I don't think it would pose a huge issue in having some kind of longer term vision, because it will be a new building. It can equally be tied into with whatever potentially comes next. But I just think it would be rather silly to let this slip by and accept something that's below par for what will be realistically 10 years plus to replace the whole school, and get on with doing the right thing now. And even at that, the huts that will be going in there are pressures in schools all across the Highlands. They will be able to be utilised elsewhere. It's not like anything's going to be a waste. The school pressure issue is not going away anytime soon. But we've had this failure, so I'm more than content, based on what I've read and heard, to propose. Well, I suppose it'd be the motion to go for option 4, and I'll seek a seconder for that. Thanks.
Okay, Andrew. Carl, no, Struan, you had your hand up there. Are you wanting to speak about Andrew, or if you, what is it?
Just as a kind of general contribution, Ron, I'm sure
Yeah.
Andrew will be able to get a seconder at any point. But first of all, gentlemen, thank you very much for bringing forward the report, and absolutely no worries about when it came. It's important that it does come and that we're able to discuss it. And I think from the members' perspective, it's been very useful. Albeit we've not had a necessarily award discussion on it as it currently stands, to actually look at what these options are, because I think, speaking as from a constituency perspective, we've got a lot of people asking us, what are the options, what can be done, and I'm quite conscious, really, to add to the point that Councillor Jarvie made, that I think a master plan is desperately needed for the educational campuses. It's something that, to his credit, Councillor Carrozzi has been arguing for a lot longer than anybody else. I think a lot of folk, including myself, believe that the school estate was probably not ideal, certainly not adequate, but not terrible. And certainly the mood music from the parent teachers, amongst other people, certainly suggested that small meaningful improvements would effectively extend the life of the school and continue to make it an adequate place to get a fantastic education. But I think we're now certainly coming towards the realization that the school estate in Thurso, probably more generally, does need looked at very, very seriously, and I don't in any way, shape or form want to put the comments that you're making around about, for example, the school rolls and the particular, the projections that we were expecting, albeit I think Wick had similar projections in school rules, and actually we're looking at extra capacity for Wick when I think we thought some of the school numbers would actually be in decline. So I know it's not an exact science. In terms of the pressures that I see, I'm conscious that replacing the physical rooms where teaching takes place is absolutely vital. But the thing that concerns me, particularly because we're not really talking about any short-term decision here, we're talking short to medium, but potentially in the long term, is that it's not the physical classrooms that I think are in desperate need of being able to be replaced. It's actually some of those social spaces, and the temporary classrooms simply are not able to afford that same areas that are undercover that allow the students to effectively have the time together to be able to socialize and to be used, because I'm sure you gents will be very familiar, that more often than not you can get soaked on the way back and forward to lunch, so having covered spaces is absolutely essential. And unfortunately, a disproportionate amount of that social indoor space was taken up with the A block in Thurso. And the way that I'm seeing the kind of future trajectory is, if we don't have a master plan with some definitive dates, and even if we did have a master plan, let's be honest with ourselves, we are going to be fighting it out with every other area in Highland that is in desperate need of school estate infrastructure spending. And my worry is, when I look, and we've all been part of these budget decisions, and you hear the heartbreaking stories that you're hearing from across Highland of communities, and this is no fault of officers, it's no fault of the local authority, it's a funding issue. How realistic are we that Thurso High School is going to appear particularly high on that list? And I have to be realistic with myself and say, I know we kind of fight it out. We like to make sure that Caithness voices are heard as best as we possibly can. But when you're looking at overcrowding to the scale that you've got in Inverness, when you've got schools that are crumbling, quite frankly, and we were in this position with Wick not that long ago, that school, the campaign that was required to get it to the top of that list, I'm slightly worried that we're caught between two things. We've had a specific issue when it comes to A block regarding a specific type of building process that is effectively, the chickens have come home to roost on it. But you do have an estate that in other parts would be described as adequate. And that's where I'm thinking that we're going to fall between the two gaps of what is required. And on that basis, I am, as it currently stands, minded to go with an option that would at least put it off to the full council to say that, we, at this moment in time, do not have a great deal of confidence that we're going to find ourselves very high up on a priority capital programme. So our preference would be to demolish, to rebuild, to get those social spaces back in. But I think you gents probably agree with me here. There is a requirement to have a look at the estate in the round, and that's before we've even brung in any sort of discussion around about the North Highland College campus, which is right next door, and the potential to actually do something that could be truly transformational. But again, there's nothing short term about that. So thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. Carl, I think you're next.
Thank you, Ron. Both previous speakers said a lot that I would agree with. There's a couple of points here. I think it's important to make it start in regard to what Andrew said. And again, I'm making these in very good faith, Andrew. And I think it's particularly relevant to the situation we find ourselves in here, because we're going to have to make a case for funding, which is going to be very difficult. But when we continually make a claim that Caithness is ignored in terms of, I think it was capital project investment used, I've got to disagree with you. Look at Wick itself, your own ward, where it's an entirely new education campus. We're nearing a process on now delivering on a redesign on health, which is, it's a £57 million cost for that. I don't know how many project costs. So, and I make these points because if we're going to make a plea and make a reasonable case for investment, we may well have to go out with Highland Council. I don't think there's any doubt that's going to happen. But if we make these type of claims, that I don't think they're accurate, and I think we absolutely kid ourselves on if we don't recognise that civil servants will understand that they're not accurate. So we've got to be really careful. I think that's undermined our our ability to address the issue with roads in Caithness, you know. And incidentally, it was interesting to note your point about £1.2 million transforming roads in Caithness. We're going to have £3 million to transform roads in Caithness, so I'll leave you that one. But look, getting back on the topic of schools, and look, it's not a complaint or a moan, but I never saw these papers till this morning. So it's difficult to gather your thoughts entirely. You know, it is what it is. But Struan made some really valuable points. I would be reluctant to make a decision today. I don't like doing it when we're at Caithness Committee stage. That, you know, as a quarterly meeting, we should be in a situation where we furnish ourselves with all the appropriate information. But I think 68 weeks ago, on a point about UHI, you know, we've got to find solutions that alleviate a position we're in. And I think we took an action to engage with UHI. I'm sure it's 68 weeks ago. So I would have liked to have known or understood where those discussions have gone, if anywhere at all. I think it would better inform this paper. In terms of public, it's absolutely correct. There should, and there is a concern. I can't think of a more important topic, certainly for Ward 2. But I was really pleased that Councillor Jarvie came in first, because you know, he clearly recognises the importance of education estates across Caithness and what we've got to tackle, because we've got to tackle predicted depopulation figures, and hopefully we'll be repopulating, you know. So I just cannot think of anything more important. So I think I'm going to listen to other points that may be made. But look, I think it's important that the public understand where we were. We basically, in the last administration, it was deemed, you know, Thursday High School, we didn't require a new campus. I disagreed with that at the time. I think that makes it very difficult for this administration to have made any decisions. In fact, I don't think I know that, because I've had discussions about it. So we really need to be very innovative. We're going to have to work hard at whatever we choose to do here. So as I say, I just haven't had a good chance to gather all my thoughts yet, but I do think there's slightly more that we could have included here to better inform a decision. So I'll wait and see how things go, Chair, and if you don't mind, I'll let you come back in if appropriate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Matthew, you're next.
Yeah, and thanks, Chair. First of all, really delighted this is at the start of the agenda today, because I think it was Struan said, and Carl to some extent, it's certainly in Ward 2, it's a really important topic just now. Like to thank you, gents, for the speed of the work you did with retrieving the situation when A Block had to close. It was really quick, and I know, speaking to the school staff, they were really pleased with the work that got done, particularly the speed of it. I've been into the new accommodation. I have to say, from the outside, it's not the best. In fact, it looks slightly forbidding, but when you walk into the accommodation, it's a different picture. The head teacher, one of the deputies, told me that they're pleased with it, and it's come quickly, and there is the better quality accommodation coming in the summer. So a really big thank you for that. I suppose, Chair, thinking about this, as Carl says, it is a bit complicated, but at another level, it's extremely simple. We're here for our ward and to represent our ward and, what constituents want. And I think starting off with a sort of large scale, if Highland Council is serious about the remote areas and looking after them, and every council paper has a section on rural implications, well, we're one of the most remote wards. We've had a very unexpected problem with a big building within our high school, which we've had to respond to. And I think the administration and the officers have done well with what's been put in place. But if we're serious about trying to reverse the depopulation that Carl mentioned, and I think one or two others, we need to think about what message Highland Council is sending out to Caithness, and particularly to our ward. In terms of finance, I mean, I've looked at this long and hard, and I can't see, but I stand to be corrected, what other funds are available beyond Highland Council. And if there is funding available elsewhere to build a whole new campus, fantastic, but I haven't been able to find it. In terms of Highland Council of funding, frankly, we're living in Never Never Land, because we know, for example, if you look at the 15-year medium-term financial plan that was passed 15 months ago, we have 203 schools, and Thurso High School isn't on the list for the next 15 years. That's the black and white reality. We also know that the LEAP funding, unless it's happened in the last 3 or 4 days, the LEAP funding announcement for the new schools we're hoping to get across the Highland Council area is now 6 months late and counting. So we don't even know if we're getting that money. That's the reality. If you recall, going back to full council in March, Mr. Foster, who was the departing Director of Finance, produced a very good paper. One of the graphs that he showed the trajectory of the council's reserves. And in 3 years' time, there will be no reserves. So trying to find extra money is going to be difficult. Turning to the paper, it mentions, producing a master plan. I think, and if Finlay wants to, when he gets a chance, sort of politely challenge me on this, that is absolutely fine, because you guys are the experts and we're not. But I would contend that the evidence strongly suggests, via the 15-year medium-term financial plan, that is effectively a master plan for where the council hopes to spend its money. And I go back to this basic point, Chair. At the moment, the high school isn't on that 15-year horizon. So yes, great to develop a master plan, but what's the actual reality? And if you was to speak to the head teacher at Thurso High School or her senior management team, it's quite correct. Up to a few months ago, they had some reservations, which I shared, about whether or not a new high school was needed. And incidentally, if we're talking about the green agenda, there's plenty of research to indicate that refurbishing and improving existing buildings is some of the latest thinking of the Scottish Government, which I would agree with. But as for A Block itself, getting down to particulars, it's not quite standalone, but it's close enough to a standalone building. The modular builds that the council has done really well, in my opinion, in organising, yes, they're coming, they can be used elsewhere if they're no longer required at Thurso. They can be moved around. And when you look at the list of category D buildings, school buildings in the Highland Council estate, they are going to be needed elsewhere. There's not the slightest doubt about that. So the modular builds are a good investment by the administration. But I think as Councillor Jarvie spoke first, to my mind, it is absolutely clear cut. If we're going to send out, as the council as a whole, a positive message to people in our ward, there is nothing better than demolishing this block and replacing it with a new block. That shows that the council is absolutely committed to Caithness, committed to the high school, and is actually doing something about it in quick order. I have to be blunt, even though I was once Vice Chair of Court Resolves, I cannot see where the money is going to come from within the council, but ultimately it's a question of priorities. No other school has had a substantial chunk of its estate condemned unexpectedly out of the blue. So therefore, in my opinion, Chair, we are a special case. I would be quite happy to support Councillor Jarvie's motion. In fact, yeah, I think it is a motion that we ask politely and respectfully for option 4 for a rebuild of A Block. And finally, just to finish, excuse me for going on, but this is really important. Pennyland Primary School was also built out of high alumina cement, I think, but I'm pretty sure about that. So I do have a precise question. I know it's been checked. What is the lifespan for that school and also the other blocks at Thurso High? It seems to me pretty much inconceivable that in 15, 20 years, they'll still be fit for purpose if this one has failed. I might be wrong, but these are the questions, looking at the medium term, we need to be thinking about. But overall, to my mind, Chair, it is complicated, as Councillor Rosie said in some ways, but in other ways, it's extremely simple. If Highland Council wants to send a message to one of its remotest areas that it's serious about trying to reverse the depopulation and invest in the school estate, compared to the money that's being spent further south, frankly, this is relatively small beer. But the improvement in morale and confidence that the council is serious about Caithness will be fantastic. And it is absolutely true that money has been spent on the Wick side. There is no getting away from that. But we're here for Ward 2. We have 3 primary schools. None of them are on that 15-year list either. So asking for one block of the high school to be rebuilt is reasonable. And I actually happen to think it's essential. So that's my thoughts, Chair. Thank you for bearing with me.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew, for that. Yes, there are a few questions there. Carl, do you want to come back? Yeah.
If you don't mind, Chair, it may be good to get the comments
This
from...
is an important, very important
no.
matter. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe get comments from officers if you don't mind, because Matthew posed quite a few questions, but I would like another opportunity to contribute afterwards. Thank you.
Okay, then. Yeah, that's fine. There was a few questions there for you, Finlay. So if you want to come back in there, it'll be fine.
Okay, well, Robert will go first and I'll follow up. Chair, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, I'll give Finlay more thinking time there. Yeah. So I think there's a few good points there. I think looking at future funding horizons as it was described, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, obviously we can't say, but I think what we would say is that we do need to do that master plan, have it ready, that whenever there's an opportunity perhaps in the future, we don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, times are pretty tough just now with the capital costs that we're facing, capital loan charges. The Learning Estate Investment Programme is mentioned as well. We've got a bid into that, which runs to 2027, that programme, and we don't know obviously what's going to follow that. So it's difficult to predict what might happen in the future, but I think the important thing is that we need that master plan. We need to have something not quite shovel ready, but certainly bid ready, that if there was an opportunity, it could be considered alongside the other priorities. And the Tain School campus and the Wick schools are mentioned as well. And I think, okay, they're good examples of things which were certainly discussed and thought about, particularly Tain for a long time. But Wick's now complete. Tain is construction's underway. So and again, it's about when the opportunity came to bid for money for both of those, we were in that position to do so. So I think that's what we need to. Certainly, the main priority here is to take that forward. With regard to the other buildings on the campus, we do have concerns about the condition, the suitability of them, how much life is left in them, as Councillor Rees alluded to there. And I think Finlay will maybe come in on that and Pennyland. But yes, I think that is something, whatever the duration of the next capital programme, we'll have buildings that we need to maintain and keep operational during that period. And obviously that's becoming more challenging as the years go by. So I don't know, Finlay.
Yeah, just following up on the points made by members, Chair. We totally agree with what people are saying, certainly today. The campus, from our point of view, for the next 15 years does need to be replaced. And we certainly need to put the work in regards to having that master plan developed. And it's key that we do have the discussion with local stakeholders to see what opportunities do present themselves in working with other educational delivery in the actual area. I suppose the challenge comes, as has been mentioned, in regards to the capital programme review, and it will be for every member at the end of the day in every ward to actually put their case forward and what's required. And Councillor Rees is right, this has been a sudden impact in regards to the use of this building, and there is a clear need for something to happen at the site. And clearly going with the demolition allows us at least to clear the site, no matter what option comes forward. If we demolish, at least we're ready for whatever comes out of the capital programme review. Our recommendation would be it's going to be difficult to put a part building in place of Block A when we're looking at a total master plan. But I think that's for further debate and discussion with members on how that future block could sit on a new campus and how that would integrate into other parts of the site, which are also high alumina cement. Now, appreciate that they're not in the same condition, the remainder of the site, but it is coming to the end of its life. So there's a struggle here of just bolting on something at the moment that's £6 million plus, when we should be looking long term for the new campus. So definitely further work to be done, Chair, with local members and stakeholders on what that future site would actually provide for Highland Council. But I would hope we get support for at least demolishing the block, so that liability is not left longer term, because we'll still have to maintain that building even though it's sitting empty, because we couldn't have a risk of further water ingress and potential collapse of a frame adjacent to a live school. So I would ask members to at least agree that we can proceed on that basis, along with putting in the newer modular accommodation to support educational delivery from the site going forward. On Pennyland, we'll continue to monitor the site. There's no signs of any failure at present, but we will continue to monitor all the high luminous event that we've got in the area and other schools as well, and frame buildings. But focusing on certainly the Thurso High, then it's really, can we demolish at least to move the project forward and engage with members on a more regular basis on what the future site may allow us to deliver. And at the end of the day, we're not sure of what funding will come up in the future, but I think we need to be ready. We need to be ready with that project no matter what, because that's what will be pushed on as shovel ready. If something or if additional funding does come along, that we are ready to go, and we've done all that stakeholder engagement. So thank you, Chair. So happy to take any follow-up points on what we discussed today.
Yep, thanks very much for that. Yep. Carlo, you want to come in now?
Yeah, thanks, Ron. I did ask you a question for yourself on whether there have been any discussions with UHI since we last agreed at action. So I think it's important to inform today's decision making.
Yeah, we haven't actually got a meeting going yet. We've been working on trying to get all the necessary stakeholders together, and we should hopefully get a date soon for to further that conversation. Carl.
Okay, thanks. Quite a number of points being made here. Matthew, I've got to say I'm disappointed. When I think of the position we now find ourselves in, just for you to pass this back on to Highland Council, I haven't been in a position where you influenced the decision that we arrived in now, the position, and it's a really difficult position. I think we owe public more. I think we need to explore in greater detail what we're going to do. So just to say, yeah, let's demolish one and replace one block. It's because the answers have been simple for a long time. These officers, they must be so frustrated. I feel the frustration because they've explained the design lifespan countless times to us. This should not be a surprise that events like this occur. It's just madness. Now, I absolutely get emotional attachment around schools. I've engaged with parents at Thurso High School, Mount Pleasant, Pennyland, and parents and teachers. They do get emotionally attached to schools. But when officers are telling us that a building has reached its design lifespan, it should be clear to us what we're going to be faced with. And these are the decisions that you need to use a bit of foresight. And unfortunately, that's why we're in the position we're in here. But just because you can see how this would be played out if we take option 4, it'll just go to Highland Council, and then all the headlines become Highland Council. I don't know what because we know what the situation is. So I think I've said it. I'm tired of saying it. We need to be innovative. We need to be think entirely outside the box to find different solutions. Meantime, because it's those solutions I don't think entirely sit with either Finlay or Robert. I think it's for members to work in conjunction with PTAs, school management teams, and our education officials in a sense of providing an appropriate education. These guys are about looking after buildings. That's an important thing to recognise here. And they've told us countless times that we should have had a recognition of what we could be faced with here. So, look, I am not comfortable in making a decision today. Because I think there may be, I've said it countless times before, I think there may be other options for additional finance, and certainly options that could better support children's ongoing education. So I'll wait and see how things develop in terms of decision making. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, Carl, thank you for that. Matthew, you want to come back in there again?
Yeah, I mean, it's all very well being disappointed or talking about innovating or thinking out of the box. What we need is hard cash. And my question for the officers, see Robert's hurriedly departed, probably sensing an awkward question coming, but Finlay, you'll be just as good. My hard question is just bearing in mind what Councillor Rose has just said, is in your experience, where else is there the money involved to build an entire new high school out with Highland Council? We can be as innovative as we want, and I, for one, would be delighted if we could find 90 million or 100 million. Carl, you said in your election leaflet that you would progress discussions for a redesigned fit-for-purpose school, estate and college campus in Thurso. That's the exact words. I will support you absolutely all the way. But I need to know, and you haven't said it, but maybe the officers can, where is this sort of money to build a new high school? We're all absolutely agreed that a complete new campus would be fantastic. Every councillor in Caithness would break out the champagne to do that. But where is the money? And the reality is, I'm being blunt here, but if you look at the last few years, all the promises that have been made and delayed or stalled or broken about dualling or about superfast broadband, Porterfield Prison, the local health hubs have just been stalled for another year or two because, and I have it in writing, because further environmental work is done to make sure the buildings are fit for purpose in the drive for net zero, which I completely support. But my question is, Finlay or Robert, is where could we find the sort of money required to get a new high school if it's not within Highland Council? And I say again, I'm really delighted with the work you have managed to do with getting the modular builds into place so quickly, and the staff are delighted. And as I'm speaking, Chair, I should have said earlier on, I think it was Carl, it might have been yourself, somebody spoke about the social spaces at the high school. And that is absolutely correct, because speaking to the head teacher, she has driven forward in the last few years a fantastic programme within the high school for improvements to the social spaces, places where young people can take time out. And that has been adversely affected by the loss of A block. And actually, almost that in itself is a very strong and persuasive argument that we make a decision today to commit to a new A block, so the school can retrieve some of the facilities that have been lost. It's a separate point, Chair, but my main point really, I'm asking Finlay, is where could we find beyond Highland Council? And I'm pleased to see that Raymond's joined us, but where is that sort of sum of money available in your experience? If we're not going to be able to fund it from within the council. Thank you.
A point of order here, please, Chair. A point of order, please.
Okay,
I do not think it was a fair question. Councillor Rees knows fine well why we're in the position that we are, because he ensured as part of the administration that Thurso High School was not on a list, a capital list for any investment. He was absolutely a part of that, and I don't think it's a fair position to place Mr. MacDonald in to answer that question. The answer to the question is clearly obvious, but we do need, Matthew, we need to think in a very different way to find solutions here. That's your point to make, but you don't seem willing to accept that. You never have. So I find it really disappointing. So look, I don't think it's a fair question for officers to ask that question, Chair, and I'll be interested to get your guidance on it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree that it would be a kind of difficult question for you to actually answer, the whole thing. Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. Is there anybody else got any contribution to this? Matthew, oh, sorry, is that an old hand, Matthew, or?
Sorry, it was a hold hand. I was asking it because Carl had suggested we be innovative, and I wondered what that meant. That was all. But thanks anyway. I accept completely your decision, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Raymond, I see your hand is up there.
Yes, I'm just going to be very brief. I would agree that finding the money, where the money is going to come from, the decisions to be made with the money that is available, either whether it's from Highland Council or through other sources, is a matter for the administration and for the members of council. I note that many questions are asked of the officers where it's not within their gift to be able to deliver on those funding sources. Those are decisions for members to make. This isn't easy. The fact is that the LEAP funding, whether it's 6 months late or not, there's decisions, but there is There are reasons, I'm sure, that the Scottish Government has for not having announced that yet. And the capital funding programme, the capital programme that the Council agreed 15 months ago, when I wasn't part of the administration at that point, and Councillor Rees was, we've already said in this administration that capital programme is to be reviewed. That review was going to take place once the LEAP funding was known. The fact that the LEAP funding is not known, at some point the Council will have to review that programme whether we know about the LEAP funding or not. And the 15-year capital programme that Matthew, Councillor Rees is referring to, will not, even at this point in time, is not a realistic programme at all. And I'm absolutely certain that Councillor Rees, he's nodding his head there because that is a fact. We will be lucky if we can see ourselves a year on year for the next 5 years, never mind 15 years. And that's why it's particularly difficult to be able to understand where on earth any of the schools, including some with catastrophic failure of building substance, is going to be able to fit into that, because Council has already agreed priority schools, which have been waiting as a priority for many years. And whilst we understand that we are members in Caithness and we stick up for our constituents and our constituents' needs, that ultimately it will be a decision for Council, because that's where the money is going to come from. If you take the members of Dingwall and Seaforth, they will be most displeased, I would say, if St Clement's doesn't top that list at that capital, at the review of the capital programme. But it all hinges on LEAP funding. And I'm not even sure that the LEAP funding going forward, it might actually be an affordable option for Council, given the way that the LEAP funding is administered. So we've got some serious decisions to make as a Council going forward. In there will be whatever option that councillors at this meeting today consider. If that's option 4, then option 4 will be the option that will go to Council, and option 4 will be will be considered in its measure along with all the others. And if that is the highest costed, if that's the highest costed option, then the ramifications of that will be considered by Council. There is no getting away from it. This is a challenging situation for Thurso High School, for the members of Thurso North West Caithness, but it's a challenging situation for the entire council, for the council area in its entirety. And we are not the only local authority facing this. When I go to the COSLA meetings, I hear it from every leader of every council, no matter their colour, about the difficulties that they're facing in terms of their finances and the capital programmes that they've got, and the school estates, and the balance that they have to find between funding the school estates and funding the other estates as well. And that includes roads infrastructure and any other capital ventures that the council would look to go forward on. So I think we have to understand that everything that we speak about here will have to be in the context of the council's bigger programme, and that ultimately is going to be a decision for members when it comes to the review of the capital programme, and that I expect will be sooner rather than later, whether we hear about LEAP funding or not.
Okay, thank you for that input. Very good. But Finlay, were you wanting to come back? Your hand was up, but it's okay.
Yeah, Chair, it's really about just the sort of discussion, and it was just good discussion today, but it's really around phasing, and ultimately, we're not expecting members to make a decision on this today. It's really saying, well, there's a phasing approach to, i.e. the new modulars coming in, the phasing of demolishing at least Block A. That doesn't preclude what the final option is going to be. So that may be the 5th option, demolish only at the moment, until such time as there's further discussion on what the outcome will be for the Thurso site. So just to maybe put some fears, or allay the fears that we're saying it's now or never. Well, it's not. Councillor Bremner has highlighted the fact that it'll all go at the capital programme review going forward anyway, and that's the point where we'll say, well, whether it's going to be an extension or a complete new build in whatever years it's going to take, along with whatever funding sources are available. So there's still a fair bit of work to be done, irrespective of what the capital programme will be telling us. but I think collectively we still need to work together on what the art of the possible is going to be for the community, because ultimately the buildings will need replaced eventually, and the sooner we do start that work, the better for us all. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So did I hear right? So you're going to option 5 would
Well,
be,
there
or-
could be more options, Chair. It's just saying the fact that at least removing that block A from the actual campus then removes that complete risk of us having a building that's propped and water ingress potentially still getting into the actual fabric. So take that block away, remove that risk, and make good the fabric. So at least then we still have the options of deciding what will happen for the site for the future. So it's really, hopefully members would say, well, okay, we agree that would happen, no, irrespective of what option we finally go for. But at least going forward, if we get agreement that we go for the capital money to actually remove block A, we're already progressing the modular units. And if options change, then Councillor Rees is right, then yes, the modulars could go to other sites within Highland Council, and that would happen anyway. But at least it allows us to start the actual progress of, i.e. putting a demolition contract together in regards to removing block A, and that won't predicate the future discussion and I suppose agreements that are reached in the capital programme going forward. It's just making the site finally clear and safe for the future. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. It is an important item. I know many have spoke before, but I think we'll just keep going on this. Matthew, a brief contribution, if possible.
It will be brief, Chair, and again, it's good that we debate this thoroughly. I think I completely agree with what the council leader was just saying, which doesn't always happen. We're absolutely on the same hymn sheet with this, and Raymond's honesty about the financial situation, very commendable and well done. And going back to this 15-year financial plan, it's absolutely true. I was part of the administration, but it's equally true I actually resigned because I didn't agree with the plan, because I felt it was completely unaffordable. We asked officers for what was required over the next 10 years. The answer came back 1.7 billion of projects, and we could roughly afford 500 million. So that's the short history of that. But Raymond's words are fully supportive. It is going to be difficult. It's a problem for our ward, and it's also, as Councillor Bremner says, a challenge, if you like, rather than a problem for Highland Council, because, you know, St Clement's School, it's the best possible example of people being disappointed if it didn't get built. And I would actually put St Clement's School at the top of my personal list if I was asked for such a thing. I think the key point about what's happened at Thurso High is, and it's happened nowhere else in Highland, is this unexpected development that the building was suddenly found to be so unsafe it couldn't be used with immediate effect. That's what distinguishes it from every other school building project in Highland. And when I said it's a challenge for Highland Council, you know, if the council's serious about the remote areas, Councillor Rosie made a good point a few years ago about the money that's been invested in Wick. This is relatively small beer compared to the money that was spent in Wick or on Tyne or anywhere else, but it would just send out a fantastic signal that the council supported Caithness. And I did actually have one detailed question, which Finlay alluded to, didn't quite answer. I was wondering, I wrote down here, question mark, timetable for demolition, because it seems to me, being practical, I stand to be corrected, you could probably only demolish a block during school holidays, and the summer holidays are approaching, and I'm guessing this decision is not going to be made in time for this summer. So it was a detailed question, Chair, and I then really would have finished. What is the and I hope this question is allowed. What might be a reasonable timetable for when a block would be demolished? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Finlay, do you want to come in on that, or?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I would probably reckon that we'd have to go out to tender clearly to get the sort of costs in for the actual doing the work, but more than likely it would be next summer unless something untoward arose in regards to the fabric. Then if we got to the point where it had to be an immediate piece of work, then we would discuss that clearly with the school and members prior to this happening. We'd rather do it during a holiday period, but maybe the timescales involved, it would be before the school holidays would actually, I suppose, start. We would do a soft strip where we could. So it'll be before the holidays, during the holidays, maybe a little bit after the holidays, and work that wouldn't maybe cause too much impact on the running of the school. I'm conscious of exams, prelims, etc. at the start of the year as well. So it's working with the head teacher and members to look at that programme for next year, provided we get approval at the capital programme review this year.
Okay,
So
thank you very much for that.
Certainly programming it in for next summer, unless something untoward happened.
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks very much. Andrew, we're back to you again.
Yes, Chair. No, thank you very much. It's been a very good discussion, having sort of spoken first and moved by motion. I think it'd be best just to come back and sum up in terms of where I am and why I still think option 4 is the best. I think it's very easy to overdo these things and get into, almost some kind of perfectionism trying to make the absolute best possible decision. But what we're being asked to do here today, all 4 options are all very high level. And there's much more discussion to be had with local members and the school in terms of if members agree with me and vote to go with replacing A block, what that would look like, where that would be sited. So it's a very simple. From here we wish to demolish it and to rebuild it, and then a discussion would then ensue in terms of what would that look like. And as it's impossible to allude to what could happen, I would certainly say I wouldn't want anything that would preclude a future campus in 10, 15, 20 years, whenever that may be. So having, a block that's almost standalone with a demolishable connection would make sense. So something new could be tied in. But, these are all, much more fine details. It's certainly a possibility. But in terms of where we are here and today, it would have been nice if we had the reality that we had last year, where we could have planned a nice, careful, phased demolition of the whole school and construction of a whole new campus, bringing in lots of schools and really taking the time to go through it. But we had this unexpected event happen, and that reality no longer exists. Unfortunately, we don't have an option where we get to take our time and to really face things out carefully. We had a fairly serious incident happen with a building that houses children, and there's also still exists next to a building where children are each and every day. We need to make the best decision for the situation we find ourselves in, not the best decision for the reality we wish we had. So simply agreeing that yes, absolutely to demolish what is a dangerous building, but for option 4 to commit to rebuild that at the soonest possible opportunity, and for those discussions to go on with members in terms of how that fits in more broadly.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Carl, do you want to come in again? Excuse me.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I think we need to focus on how we're going to proceed. My own, just thinking about Councillor Jarvie's contributions here, if we're going to focus on demolishing and rebuilding, I think in the modern design of school campus and education estates, and from what my understanding is, and I'm not professing to be an expert, but I wonder if the footprint of Thurso High School is appropriate. Existing footprint is not entirely accessible. It's inappropriate. And look, we understand the transport issues that we have around here, getting kids safely into school and all the rest of it. So I say that because there is a far wider discussion to have that remains on what's appropriate. How and where we do that, I guess that's what we need to determine our option. But what concerns me for and our responsibilities towards a community in Caithness is how we best address the situation in the ongoing education of children. Now, I've made a point about UHI as one external stakeholder that wishes to engage, and they've made that clear for some time. So, look, I think we need to have amend whatever decision we make to ensure that happens, and happens at pace. What's happened, where we are, but we need to really push this on to find some appropriate solutions. Which, and as I say, these are not should not be an expectation to be provided by property and facilities. We need to engage with education authorities, officers and PTAs, teachers, and the community to find these any solutions that exist. So, look, I am inclined to accept the recommendations made by officers and the additional comments made by Finlay. I think were sensible, but I would amend if you want a form of wording, I'll try and do it for you, Chair, in the meantime. But we need to start engaging with external stakeholders if we're going to find appropriate solutions here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Finlay, do you want to come back in?
Yeah, just to say, Chair, that until we get going, and Councillor Rosie's right, until we get going with that kind of master plan, that the model we've used today on new builds is generally maybe build on the school playing fields or adjacent site to allow us to demolish the whole campus. So I would just be maybe just concerned that we go and build a new extension or part of a building where Block A is, only to have to relocate to an adjacent site, either playing fields, if that's what we're going to go with. So until we go through that process of deciding the size of the campus, where it'll be located, then we just be mindful that building an extension which might be in the wrong place will stop. So I think this debate needs to be probably taken further, as we will do with stakeholders and yourselves, members, to go through the options to make sure we present the right case to the capital programme review that's going to happen. I'm mindful of dates as well and timescales. It'll be disappointment if it's the time that we're talking about, but ultimately is building the right location, using, i.e., or working with the college as well on what's the art of the possible. So not to preclude saying let's just go and spend 6-7 million on part of a building when really it should be on the adjacent site. So that'll impact on the final recommendation that does go for the campus going forward. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Wally, you got your hand there?
Wally at last, yes, listening to everything that's been said. And I think we have here in front of us one of the most difficult decisions in the last term to make. Okay, and decision has to be made one way or the other if we want to move forward. I think we've all agreed on the demolish, but demolish full stop or demolish with a recommendation. It's very difficult indeed. I've been 16 years in the council now myself. I've seen a lot, and I've seen through the Wick High School, you mentioned it. One of the great secrets of getting the Wick High School was there was a terrific campaign at the time led by a well-known gentleman. He was very well organised. He used a lot of pressure, lots of meetings, lots of consultation, and there was a bit more money available at the time, and it really worked for him. Believe you me, and I wonder they never called it after that gentleman. However, that was a secret. So irrespective of what's going to be done here today, there is still one huge amount of work to be done to get a new compass. Absolutely unbelievable. So good luck, but we've got to make a decision somewhere. And yes, I think I will go with one of the options or amendments that comes up once I hear what Carl's got to say. And so far, well, if we're going to demolish, I think we should look to rebuild as well. But however, I'm on balance at the moment. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Roy. We do have a motion from Councillor Jarvie, and I believe that Matthew, you were going to second that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm happy to second.
Okay, and the motion was to go for option 4. That's correct, is it? Yeah. And yes, Carl, were you wanting to amendment or?
Yeah, so look, yeah, option 1 with the, we all heard the additional comments that the officer made as an officer's recommendation, but I do think that we should amend that wording with a clear intention from us and a commitment to engage with external stakeholders. I've talked about it already, you know what I mean, so let's do that as a matter of urgency, please.
Okay, thanks, Carl. Raymond, do you want to come in there?
Yes, please. I note in the paper that's in front of us, Thousand High School update, 5.4 summary, option 4. Given the relatively high cost of this option and the condition and risk management challenges associated with the remaining buildings on the campus, this would not be the best value option if a completely new build to replace all the buildings was considered to be the preferred long-term solution. A master plan to look at the longer-term campus options will be developed. Surely, looking at a master plan and the long-term options for Thurso High School as a complete new school, which was what Willie's talking about there just now, and what Wick High School was based on, was a complete new school and a master plan. That ultimately is the best option. So what we're talking about here, based on the advice of the officers, is not to tear down a building and replace it, and then find that a master plan would actually tell us we're going to tear down that building, having spent 7.5 million on the option of it, to then spend even more money replacing it as part of a bigger master plan. That's crazy. That really is not. That is not clever. That might be politically advantageous for saying to the communities of North Caithness that might be good for us in the short term. I don't think that that's good for us in the long term. Here in the north, we need I would suggest, and I'm very conscious. I'm a Wick member. I'm not a Thurso member, and it can't be easy for the Thurso members on this one. But certainly for me, replacing that building would be better. Replacing that building as part of replacing that as a full campus. If we're considering the fact that that building will never be replaced, that a campus is highly unlikely to go ahead in the next 15 years, then is that the reason that we're just looking to replace that building for £7.5 million as part of option 4? I think that those the options that we're going with at the moment are going to land up being in a period of flexi. So as soon as we pull down that building, we are going to have to be looking at what the finances of the council are going to be over the next few years as part of the capital plan and part of the capital plan debate. And Caithness members can feed into that, and Thurso members can feed into that. And that surely is the place then we can base a decision on how we progress the ultimate outcome for Thurso High School, and not leave it to settling on option 4 as the be all and end all of this at the moment. I know that that might not be an acceptable position in the immediate short term, but I think for the long term that would be absolutely the best option, is to go with option 1, demolish the building, and let's see how we can fit this in at Thurso High School as a campus into a master plan, and for a far better outcome for the folks of Thurso. And Councillor Rosie is right. And my whole term in the previous administration, I got myself elevated there. I put myself into the administration of the previous term. Councillor Rosie was the only councillor that I ever heard championing a replacement campus, and now that looks as though that's going to be something that is going to have to be looked at sooner rather than later. So I would go with option 1, plus the caveats that Councillor Rosie has said there just now, and let's look at the bigger picture for a campus for Thurso when it comes to the capital programme discussion. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, it is a very difficult one, and it's been said, with the timescales, we don't really know if it is demolished when anything will actually happen after that. So it is a difficult one, and a new campus is certainly quite a wee bit down the road. So I think then it will go for a vote on, basically, are we just having a vote on the option 1 and a vote on option 4?
Chair, can I, a point of order?
Yes.
Can I just ask clarification from the clerk to let us know what we're actually voting on here? What are what's the motion? What's the amendment? And are those the only? Is it only a motion and amendment that's been put forward? So can I get clarification from the clerk, please?
Yep. There's a motion from Councillor Jarvie, seconded by Councillor Rees, that option 4 be the recommended preferred option, and then there's an amendment from Councillor Rosie, second by Councillor Bremner, that option 1 be the recommended option was that addition that there's a clear commitment to engaging with external stakeholders.
Okay. Thanks.
Just go to the vote, or
yes, we can just go to the vote on. We'll have the motion from Councillor Jarvie first.
well, I'll just
Or you
do the
so-
vote by roll call, and if when I read out your name, if you could indicate if you wish to vote for the motion, the amendment, or to abstain. So, Councillor Bremner,
Amendment.
Councillor Gunn,
The motion.
Councillor Jarvie,
Motion, please. Thank you.
Councillor Mackay,
This computer's playing up. Amendment, please.
Councillor Mackey,
The motion, please, Ant.
Councillor Rees,
Motion, please.
and Councillor Rosie.
Amendment, please.
So that's 4 votes for the motion and 3 votes for the amendment. So the motion's carried.
Okay. Thank you for all the contributions. Would it be a time for a quick 10-minute break? We have covered a fair bit of time on that very important matter. So if everybody's in agreement, we'll just have a quick 10-minute relief break, if that's okay. We'll come back we'll come back just before past. Thanks very much for that. Okay, members, we'll move on now to item 5. The Caithness Area Housing Associations. Allocations. And we've been invited to note and approve an amendment which we will hear about shortly.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. I'm here to present the Caithness Area Housing Allocation Paper. In this paper, the HHR, that's the Highland Housing Register, is recommending a change to the suspension rules for housing applicants who refuse a reasonable offer of housing under the choice space letting system that is used in Caithness. I'll just begin by quickly outlining the current framework, what we're proposing, what's been proposed by the HHR, and then conclude by explaining why these changes are being recommended. So currently, when a housing application is suspended, the applicant is not eligible for any offers of housing during the suspension period. Across the Highlands, all applicants will have their application suspended for 6 months after 2 refusals of a reasonable offer of housing. To ensure our offers are reasonable, local teams will offer an applicant a property that matches their bedroom size need, medical needs, and is in a letting area that they have selected as a preference. However, from time to time, these offers are refused. In Caithness, as you know, there operates a unique allocation system to the Highlands called choice-based letting. In this system, applicants register an interest, otherwise known as a bid, in a property, and only those applicants who register this bid will be considered for that particular property that's being offered. The change that the HHR are proposing is that housing applicants will have their application suspended after 1 refusal of a reasonable offer. This will only apply to offers made under the choice-based letting system. All other aspects of our suspension policy and process will remain in place. The suspension will last for 6 months. The housing team will assess offers, reasonableness, and the decision to suspend will still be discretionary, and the local housing teams can choose not to suspend the application. The HHR are proposing this amendment to try and reduce the number of refusals that take place in Caithness. Local housing teams believe that applicants will be less likely to make a speculative bid if there is an immediate risk of having their application suspended. This in turn will reduce the number of refusals. A speculative bid is one made by an applicant when they have no real interest in accepting an offer of housing. Section 5.4 and 5.5 of this report highlights that nearly 90% of refusals were made to a reasonable offer of housing, and that many of the reasons for refusals would have been known to the applicant before making their bid. As applicants register an interest in the property in advance of the offer, they are aware of the location, property type, rent, heating type, accessible features, council tax ban, and garden arrangements, something that other folk in Highlands aren't aware of before an offer is made to them. Dealing with refusals is very time consuming for housing officers due to the administrative burden involved, and in addition there will also be rental loss income as well. I can confirm that the amendment to the suspension rule is established policy elsewhere in Scotland and is in accordance with the Scottish Government's guidance on allocating social housing. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, a good report and well explained there, what you're hoping to achieve there. I can open that up to members if anybody has any questions or comments on the report. Oh, not seeing any hands coming up there. So, yeah, nothing there. So we've been asked to note the unique housing allocation system used in Caithness and the challenges that exist in allocating properties within the area. I take it that you have to note that, members. Yeah, not seeing anything. Yeah. Yes, Willie, was you wanting to speak, or are you just?
Yeah. Sorry, my computer's playing up a bit slow.
Oh, right. On you go. Yeah.
Sorry, Chair. Yes. Yes. I can see the reason here is to reduce the total number of refusals, and they're pretty high, 88 and 89%. I just wonder what pressure that puts on couples looking for a house when there is quite a lot of houses available. And the reasoning behind it, as you say, is to improve the outcomes and get this percentage down. But I just wonder what pressures these couples are going to be under when they face a 6-month ban from being allowed to, after having been offered a reasonable house. I just wonder, I worry for them a wee bit. So, if there's any elaboration you can give me on that issue.
Well, if if a couple or anyone refuses an offer that was reasonable and they're under a very exceptional level of housing pressure or housing need for their particular reason, the housing team can elect not to suspend their application if their need outweighs the reason for not suspending them. So there's this discretion that exists for housing teams to take. So if there's quite a significant amount of need, then we can look not to allocate to them. But then equally so, some people who may refuse offers may not have a lot of housing needs. They may be pretty well housed, but they're just looking to move, in which case they're probably not under a lot of pressure, and suspending their application for 6 months won't make a big difference to them because they're not in housing need or a lot of housing need.
Okay, and you're quite confident this will work?
We believe so. We plan to make it very clear on the websites of all the HHR partners, so that's the council and the other housing associations, and in any other area where we have communication, either verbally or through website or letters, that there is only one. They only get one reasonable offer until there is a suspension, just to try to make applicants think before they register a bid. So that's what we're hoping to do, and this is what a lot of other social housing landlords and undertake, is only one refusal before a suspension. So it's not an ordinary process to take, which we just reduce it to one.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Raymond?
Yeah, thanks for that answer to Councillor Mackay's question, because I think it's important that information is out there, that when the paper talks about unreasonable refusal, or where a reasonable offer has been made, what's in the pipeline for where it can be determined by the applicant that it is an unreasonable offer, and so you said there just now that there is some discretion in that. At the same time, we are looking at the fact that Caithness is unique, and the fact that it has so many voids, and also the churn. And that's not just over the past 6 months or just in the term of this new administration. That has been here in the whole period of the previous administration and term of council, and in the years prior to that. So this is something that's looking to tackle that and all of it, and that is that's one of the reasons that I'm quite supportive of this. It's been talked through with members before at the monthly housing meetings, in terms of a solution to be able to try and reduce the inability to have rental income from void properties. How long will this be in place for, please? When will this be reviewed?
It could be in place indefinitely, or until we haven't really thought about a particular date for when we might consider bringing Caithness in line with the rest of the Highlands. But I can commit to a review date, maybe in the next 6 months, to see if that's done. If this has changed anything, and bring it back to the committee just to give you an update on that, and then go from there if the chair allows that.
Can I just come back on that, Chair?
Yes, there you go.
Okay, so the housing members made a decision that the housing wouldn't have to report every quarter at the Caithness Committee, and would report every 6 months. So I would suggest that that is noted, and that a caveat is placed on that, so that a review of this comes back within 6 months. I don't know if a review of a 6-month period would be effective, but at least we would be noting it and reviewing it at 6 months to see what the lie of the land is. But it could well be a 12-month period before, or even longer, before we actually see some sort of substantive outcome to this. So, but I would ask for this to come back to members in 6 months' time.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Andrew?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've been fully supportive of this to see if it helps alleviate this problem. I mean, certainly, I can imagine there would be the odd case where someone could fall foul of a system, but so I'm glad there's that discretion there that the council staff have to apply that. But generally speaking, because of the unique system we have, people are only bidding for something they want. And if people are bidding for something they don't want, then they shouldn't simply be doing it. And if it's become a problem to this scale, then I think it's more than fair to amend that. Just the only thing I would add, it would be to ask that council staff, when someone applies onto the register for Caithness, if they could simply proactively reach out to any new applicants, either email, phone, whatever, just to make them aware. And simply because I think in the long run, whilst that's adding another step, that should hopefully save staff time. Because I can imagine, the amount of time that's taken up with someone not taking an offer, them having to go back to offer it to someone else, that just adds, steps into the process. But equally, if people are going to start to be refused or suspended to go on the list for 6 months, I can only imagine the amount of staff time that could be taken up with people trying to appeal that their refusal was of an unreasonable property versus reasonable. So I think just simply making that proactive contact, even if it's just a standard format email sent out to people, so that it is abundantly clear that the council can show that it has clearly demonstrated the policy is in effect to people, and that isn't in and of itself grounds for challenge. So someone can't say, "Oh, I didn't know." So if we can close off, grounds to challenge and make the process as fair as possible to people, and hopefully reduce some staff time, that would be fantastic.
Thank you, Andrew. Matthew, have you got your hand?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. This is definitely an area I'm not particularly familiar with, and listen carefully to what Raymond said. One of the points for me is that for a small number of families, ones who find themselves, for whatever reasons, living in sort of chaotic circumstances, 6 months is quite could be argued is quite a long time. And I'm just wondering, there's absolutely nothing wrong with Caithness being different. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. But I do take your point about the amount of time officers are incurring in dealing with it. And I suppose my question might be something about what's the primary motive for this change? And secondly, how many hours typically, and I know this is a very general question, but roughly, how many hours work is it to process each of these? And I probably should partly know the answers to these, but I don't. So that's why I wouldn't mind brief answers, please.
Okay, Matthew, thank you. Would you like to answer some of the points?
Yeah, so for the first point for Councillor Jarvie, it is all new applicants who apply for the HHR receive a letter outlining what points and several other bits of information. And if there is a section on that discusses Caithness choice-based letting, so that can easily be amended just to make them aware of the rules, etc. So they get that when their application is completed and processed, they can get a letter that can have a paragraph regarding choice-based letting, and we'll just amend the existing paragraph so there's that. They're aware of it from the very beginning of the process rather than just when they're making their first bid for a property. In terms of the second point, or the second question, the two parts, in terms of the purpose or why we're doing this change or proposing this change is to try to reduce the number of refusals. That if people are not making those speculative bids on properties, they don't have any interest in applying and they decide not to apply, then hopefully the only people applying for the properties will be those who really want to accept it. And therefore, if people are accepting it, the numbers of refusals go down. So we're getting people into properties sooner, less void rental loss, and less work for our housing officers in dealing with a refusal. In terms of actual time, I can't give you an exact figure, I'm afraid, but it does take about a lot of time having to rerun a whole list, go through everyone who's applied, and I don't want to get too technical for you, just what the housing thing, but it does take quite a while to run a housing list. And in Caithness, it's a slightly longer process because of the unique housing system we use as well. And it has been said that some of the housing officers are spending a lot more time doing these list running than they should be dealing with actual applicants or their tenants and doing that work that they like to do, which is talking to people rather than having to run these clerical lists, which is what they do often.
Okay, thank you. I suppose, if I may, Chair, very briefly, just to echo what Councillor Mackay said, well, in fact, repeating what Willie said, will this work? That's, I suppose, in practical terms. And thanks for what you've said already.
Okay, so thanks. Anybody, Raymond, you want to come back, Andrew?
Yeah, I think that 6 months for me is still reasonable, but I hear the point that Matthew's making, but we do have our own monthly housing meeting, and that has partly been, broaching this. It's been something that we've been aware of every single month for years. So it's still something that we can actually pick up on a monthly basis, heading towards that review. So it's something that councillors have the ability to be able to pick up with housing on an informal basis monthly. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Raymond. Anybody else for any contributions or comments? That's an old hand, Raymond, I take it. Yeah, perfect. Okay, as I said, we've been asked to note the unique housing allocation system used in Caithness and the challenges that exist in allocating properties within the area. So I can take it we have noted that, we're happy with that. And we've been asked to approve the amendment to the suspension rule for housing applicants within Caithness. Applicants who refuse one reasonable offer of housing will have their housing application suspended for 6 months. Currently, this suspension only takes place after the application refuses 2 reasonable offers of housing. And I think we can add in the caveat that we will review this in 6 months' time, see how it's going. So are we happy to approve? Members happy to approve this? Not seeing any, no.
Chair, can I just ask, caveated with some of the points that we mentioned there, for noting like bringing back in 6 months' time for review.
I did say review in 6 months' time. Yeah, I don't know if you
Perfect.
caught that. Yeah, the caveat with that. Yes, because yeah. Okay, we're happy to approve that. Yep, been approved. Thank you very much for your report. Move on now to item 6, housing performance report. And who is leading with that?
I think Colin Sharp's here, Chair. Yeah, Colin will
okay,
do the
thank you,
repairs
Colin.
part first.
Yep. Good morning, members. Thank you very
Morning.
much. Good morning, Chair. Yeah, it's just to present the housing performance report. So I'll go over the repair statistics with you. Just make sure I've got them here. So regarding the emergency repairs, we are currently sitting for Thurso and North West Caithness at a time of 4.3 hours and Wick and East Caithness a time of 8.5 hours. Thurso and North West Caithness have reduced quite significantly, but as you can see, Wick and East Caithness have increased quite significantly. Both are still within the target, well within the target of 14 hours. It's possible and more likely that the Wick and East Caithness results are due to a couple of incorrectly completed works orders for emergencies, which are skewing the figures. We should have had those scooped out prior to that report going, but it's still well within those target dates at times for doing that. Regarding the non-emergency repairs, we're sitting just above the target of 8 days, but still within the benchmark of 8.9 days for Thurso and North West Caithness, 8.1 days. Wick and East Caithness were sitting within target at 7.3 days. Both again have seen an increase in timescale. This we're also attributing back to the suspension of non-essential repairs whilst budgets and what have you were sorted out, and we're currently working through the backlog of all those repairs. So, regarding void times remain fairly static as they always are. The difficulty in, as you've already alluded to, in the void, so 44.8 days for Thurso and North West Caithness, and at 39 days for Wick and East Caithness. And that is the repairs part of the performance report. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much for that report. Yes, there's some good stuff in it there. I'll open that up now to members if they want to comment or ask anything. Raymond?
Can you just clarify, Colin, what did you mean by paperwork, paper or job, something to do with stuff that should have been filtered out before these figures were reported to?
Yes, under emergency repairs, because a lot of these works are done with handheld devices, if the trade puts in the incorrect completion date, it can skew the repair. So what I can guarantee is all our emergencies are attended to within time, but the trade may go, I've finished that job, and instead of putting the 29th of May, he might do it tomorrow and click the 30th. So it adds 24 hours to the timescale for actually attending to the emergency. It's purely a performance-related issue with the trades and contractors, and ensuring that they're inputting the correct details when they complete jobs. All emergency repairs, as I say, will and should be attended to within the benchmark, and that is purely to attend to the emergency part of the repair. Any works that require a follow-on from that would generally require another works order to be raised. So for example, tenant may be complaining of water flooding through their ceiling, and if it's at night that call comes in, the plumber may just isolate the problem. That should be the job closed down. It should then another works order raised to go and complete the repair, because we've dealt with the emergency part of it.
Okay.
Sometimes the trade will be there at 1 o'clock in the morning and he'll go back following well, that day at 1 o'clock in the afternoon to complete the repair, where he technically should be asking for a further works order, so that extends the period of the emergency repair, if you like.
Okay, if I can come back in on that, Chair.
Yeah.
The idea of performance-related figures coming to the Caithness Area Committee and to members is so that we get an accurate picture of what it actually is. What you're telling me there just now that it's not. Caveating it within the period of within the target time, to me is not acceptable. Whilst we might have the ability to be able to show that we're within the target period of time, what we're actually saying is it is not reflective of actual performance. So if it can be noted that we need these figures to be reflective of actual performance, and if the appropriate measures can be taken so that the trades or whoever it is that's filling in the information actually fills it in accurately, so that members do have an accurate, because there are expectations in the public domain, and we are not alone as a county. Our performance is held up against other areas that have performances measured as well, and if they're measured accurately and we're not, that would bother me in how it looks as though Caithness performs within the rest of the Highlands. So thanks for the information, but it really needs to be accurate coming to members.
Thank you, Raymond. Did I see another hand there? No.
If I may come back in at that.
So yes, certainly come back. Yeah.
Yes, no, I absolutely 100% appreciate your comments there, Councillor. And this is the report that we provide is to the best of our knowledge. It is absolutely 100% as accurate as we can make it. That does not obviously taking the caveat that there are instances where trades, and we do deal with these on an individual basis, you know, where they're incomplete, putting incomplete data, and the same with contractors putting in incomplete or incorrect dates. So we are addressing those matters. I appreciate that you're saying you're compared to other areas across Highland Estate for performance. I also think that is slightly unfair because there are different demands and different size of areas to manage. So whereas an emergency may only take an hour in Inverness because they can get to it very quickly, caveat that with ourselves in more remote areas.
I'll take a point of order there. I'm not actually reflecting on the actual performance variables across the varying areas. But if we, unless you're telling me that the filling in and the completion of the information is also inaccurate in the other areas, which is the point I'm making,
it will be.
So what you're saying is that the
it's
information
approximately 99% accurate.
So what we're 99% accurate. So we're talking about a 1% issue here.
Yeah, I mean, one job that has not been picked up, and as I generally go through these bad completion reports weekly. If one is missed, that could add a significant period of time to that. But we do refresh these, we do look at these very, very regularly and ensure that the information we are passing is as accurate as we can possibly make it. I will be reviewing the report again into the increase for emergency repairs from 4 up to 8 hours, because that to me indicates there's an anomaly in that. So I will be looking at that and ensuring that that is provided, information is provided back to the members for it.
Okay, because from what you're saying there just now is if 1% is all we're talking about in terms of the incomplete or the wrongly completed information from the contractors, then 99% is reflective of the actual performance, which has worsened in the Caithness and East Caithness area. I would expect something to be done about that before we look at this in 6 months' time, and that's my last comment on that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. Wally?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Colin, good to see you again. Colin,
Good morning.
for your report, very good indeed. Colin, just a couple of questions, just a couple of queries really. Has there been a marked improvement in the supply of materials for replacement now that we're through this pandemic, which caused lots and lots of problems? So I just wondered how your supply trade is doing. And Colin, I do notice that the rent arrears has decreased. This is very well done, and credit, I believe, to the officers. Is that right? Who have been engaging with those who have difficulty in paying.
Okay,
Thanks, Colin.
regarding the material supplies, we are seeing an improvement in material supplies. However, there are still some significant delays, mostly in equipment that requires chips. So air source heat pumps and things like that are causing delays. We've got significant delays with meters as well, which we're trying to source and ensure that those are done. Glazing is also still a problem for sourcing, but we are seeing improvements in those times coming down. So I expect that to continue to improve. Regarding rent arrears, as much as I would love to take credit for that, I can't, because that's down to Margaret Ross and her team and the housing management side. I think Margaret is here, so I will also pass on my congratulations to her for having that done, but she'd maybe be in a better position than I am to answer the questions regarding any rent arrears.
Okay, thank you. Andrew?
Thank you, Chair. And I was going to say, Colin, can I, thank you for your honesty in answering that question from Raymond, because it's very rare that we get such a refreshingly honest answer in terms of problems in the council, because that's ultimately how we fix things. It seemed to me that there's, beyond this committee, there seems to be a broader issue in how this is actually being measured. And if we have, it may only be a small percentage of claims, but if we have in effect a system that allows for such huge errors to be, to skew the data, then the broader system that's being used, clearly, there's something not right with it. And I don't, Raymond, perhaps this is something that could be raised at redesign with the digital services transformation. If we've got data that's coming out wrong and staff are having to manually review that, which still allows for human error to take place, we surely need some kind of system in place that flags up automatically key performance indicators that are out with the expected range, and to call someone's attention to that. So say, for example, a job is logged, it's over the 14 hours. Each job that is over 14 hours is automatically flagged up for a member of staff to intervene, rather than every single job card having to be gone through to find the ones that are faulty. That would seem to me a way that would reduce the chance of these errors getting through, and also hugely save some staff time. So I think there's something at a broader council level we actually need to get on top here, not just looking at how the staff can do things differently. That would seem to be for me. And lastly, I think on top of that, a broader issue, I've always had an issue with these KPIs that when they come to us as averages, because it misses out the extremes. I've always thought that when we're getting these reports, we should have the average, but as well the lowest and the highest number within that range.
Okay, Andrea, thank you. Colin, do you want to come back there? Or
yes,
Yeah.
Regarding the systems, there is currently a review being undertaken with the supplier of one of our systems because of some difficulties we've been having with that system. So the suppliers are meeting with our policy team, with people that are using the system. That is being done right now, and there was a meeting that I unfortunately wasn't able to attend this morning, as I was here to discuss some of the issues surrounding that. So these issues are being addressed, and how we highlight the problems. I absolutely take on board the lowest and the highest. I think that is a very good suggestion, and I will take that forward, with my management team to look at that and see if we can get that in. Supplying all the data for every job that is done. Just to give you an idea, we do somewhere in the region of 80,000 works orders a year. So to supply all the information for every single emergency, every single routine, which are the only two that are under KPIs, would be a significant piece of work. You would have thousands of works orders every month to review. And so what we do is we look at on emergencies, because generally speaking, as I say, we will get to every emergency within 14 hours. We will do that. I'm not disputing that at all. And so the looking at how we supply that and how we get that information. And for bad completions, so it's out with target, is we actually look at, because of numbers, anything that is over 24 hours is taken into consideration. Otherwise, we'd be bogged down in reviewing almost every single works order on a very regular basis. But I do take the point, and I say my position, I want to ensure the information that you're getting is as accurate as possible. For me, having the times down and showing them accurate is a reflection on the good performance of my staff. So I want to ensure that that information is accurate. I don't want to be saying there may be a problem with this information, because it then reflects badly on my staff, and they should get the credit for the performance that they are putting in. So I 100% agree on that, and I will be taking measures to try and address that.
Good. Thank you very much, Colin. Raymond, did you have a hand up? Was that an old one? Sorry.
No, I've taken it down.
Okay, thanks. Has anybody else got anything they want to?
Ron, the
see?
intention was that Colin would present the repairs part of the paperwork and then of the report, and then I would come in and tell you about the rent arrears and the homelessness. And that should have been made clearer to you in the beginning. Apologies for that. We've decided going forward that it's more appropriate for the repairs manager for the North to present the repairs part of the report to you, because he's much more in-depth knowledge than I'll be able to give you. So there's not much left for me to do. Rent arrears, as you've already noted, have decreased in both wards for that quarter, and I'm really, really pleased with that, to be perfectly frank. The team are working very, very hard. We had the luxury of being allowed to appoint 2 additional housing management officers, which means the patch sizes in Caithness have been reduced to 500 per officer. So we have 2,000 houses in Caithness, and we now have 4 housing management officers with a patch of 500, and the figures tell you that that's been a success. But that doesn't take away from how important it is to keep the focus on rent arrears. Some of the legal means we had have been taken away from us because of the government's moratorium on eviction. So it's even more important that we pursue the low-level arrears, and it's paying dividends at the moment. But people are certainly finding it very challenging out there. I don't have to tell you that, you'll know that. And the homelessness, bit of a spike in Q4. As life becomes hard, people are travelling around Scotland looking for something different, and that's impacting in quite a few of the rural areas. But it is what it is, and we're able to deal with the kind of figures we're getting in Caithness at the moment. And that's it from me. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, right. Raymond?
Yeah, thanks very much, Margaret. That's really appreciated, and it's commendable seeing because reducing the rent arrears in this climate at this moment in time, I can't think is an easy thing. I think being resourced is one thing, but do you think because you'll be close to it, and your officers will be close to it, do you find how difficult is it actually for folks to engage in terms of reducing the rent arrears, given the cost of living crisis and particularly the fuel crisis that we've got at this moment in time? So if you could reflect on that one. And the second one, yeah, the homelessness. And I know that we've been speaking about this at our monthly housing meetings, because we have noticed that there has been an increase. And the numbers that we see in Caithness may not compare to other areas, but certainly from what I'm aware, and working with the officers, there has been a spike. Do you see that as being reflective of national policy? And if so, is this going to be something that we expect to continue over the coming months ahead? Thanks very much.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult for people just now. It really is. And that's why you've got to keep your focus on the low level arrears, because once they get high, it's far too difficult for people to come back from that. So there's been, for instance, the housing management assistants in Caithness carry a caseload as well. So they will do arrears up to £400, and they that's proved to be very effective. Getting in early, speaking to people, doing lots of signposting to any of the agencies that can help. We have Ali Energy on board to give energy advice. There's lots of referrals going through to Ali Energy. That'll tail off a wee bit as we come into the better weather, but people are absolutely struggling. There's no question of doubt about that. Spike in homeless, yeah, it will continue, Councillor Bremner. There's no question of doubt about that. Although this is for Q4, you know, there have been changes to legislation, and we now are no longer able to refer back to another Scottish local authority who may have the duty. So in other words, if anybody, you can still refer back to English authorities, but generally in Scotland you can't. So if they present in your area, you're having to deal with it, which we're able to do. We have 13 furnished units. We're looking to maybe increase that slightly. It's quite difficult to find appropriate units, but I don't think that number will considerably decrease anytime soon.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Wally?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think there's no doubt that the information and the discussions we have with Margaret around our monthly housing meetings are absolutely informative. They're really, really effective to keep us up to date. And these meetings are open to all the councillors in Caithness. And well done, Margaret, to your team. There's no doubt about that on this decrease in rent arrears. On the homeless side, I have come across a couple of people in the past who didn't want any help whatsoever from the council, and they're living rough, and everything was there for them. So this must be a huge disappointment. When you see people like this, I don't want no help whatsoever. I can live on my own, because the council do offer them everything. And like I say, it must be a disappointment to you, Margaret, when you have these facilities for them and they won't take it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
It's very much dependent on the time of year of the presentations. In the middle of winter, people will come to us. They're not going to be sleeping rough in Caithness in the middle of winter. You might have some rough sleepers over the summer months, but we're proactive there too, and our doors open.
Okay, thanks very much. Yeah, anybody else, any other members got anything contribution wise? No. Colin and Margaret, thank you very much for that report. We all know how challenging housing is, and the great work that you're doing there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think we've just really to scrutinise the report, and we'll probably we'll get you back in a 6 or 9 months' time to see how the performance indicators are going. We'll get you penciled in for another. Thanks again very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, item 7. I'm delighted to say that I've got.
Chair, can I make a point of order?
Yes, sorry.
Just a point of order. I put it in the chat, but I think for the benefit of those who might be watching any recording of this, that the item I put in the chat was that I am making letting folks know that I have a connection to items 7A, B, and C. I'm a council member of the Focus North Advisory Board, but as such, I really don't think that amounts to me having to make a declaration of interest, so I intend to remain for this item. For item number 10, however, I've put it in the chat that as the Vice Chair of the Thrumpton Community Development Association that has an application to the Community Asset Transfer Board, that is definitely a declaration of interest, and I'll exit the meeting for that point. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that, Raymond. I never actually saw that bit in the chat. Yeah, thanks. That's noted. Right, yeah, I'm delighted to see we've got Peter Fashenda here, who's going to give us a Focus North Partnership update. I'm sorry for the rather long wait, Peter, but
no,
we got there eventually.
No, I've been listening with interest, so thank you for that. Hi, good morning, everyone. Okay, thanks for inviting me along to just talk this through. I've sent you, I think, 3 documents that you will have seen from me. One was a copy of the presentation. It's only about 4 or 5 slides. And then I've sent through a document which is a promotional area document, and I've sent you a copy of a just transition paper that we've been effectively using to promote the needs in the region. So I thought I'd just briefly take you through the presentation. But if you've got any questions on anything about any point, just shout up and I'll try and take them as you come on. So hopefully I'll be able to share this. I'm hoping that's now appeared as a full screen. Has that appeared?
Yes, Peter is there. Sorry, I was
Hallelujah.
muted.
Yeah. Okay, very good. It's, technology I don't always win out when it comes to this stuff. So yeah, focused on just to remind ourselves, we've been through a process of rebranding, relaunching, and refocusing what we're doing as a partnership. Of course, the council being one of the key members of the Focus North Partnership. We've agreed a master plan, or started to develop a fully blown master plan around the 4 key performance indicator areas, which are around economic growth, the people and community, sustainability, and partnership performance. And obviously, from a point of view of progressing things, and I'm taking these 2 slides slightly out of order. The 4 things that we've identified as, the 4 areas that we've had. In fact, you'll see that as there's a misnumbering there. It's actually 5. We've got 2 number 1s, which shows you how important they are. And obviously, to progress things, we as a partnership, we need to have resources to make things move forwards. And just to report to members that we have now recruited a replacement for Dave Calder, the business development manager who was working with us previously. And a lot of you will know Nicola Sinclair, who was previously a councillor. She's now taken up a post as business development manager for Focus North. She started a couple of weeks ago, and she'll be picking up some of these key action points and seeking to develop, in particular, the economic opportunities in the region. So the items that we have picked up through our consultation process, which has now been going on since we kicked off the review activity, the things that we've identified as key for us to take action on are, firstly, the lack of skilled personnel across the region. This is still an issue that's impacting a lot of existing industry, from right across from some of the engineering firms into hospitality and across the piece. But also the part that we're probably more focused on is ensuring a pipeline of skilled personnel to meet the needs, all the exciting opportunities that are arising in the region. So from offshore wind, you'll see that the spaceport, you'll have seen from press that the spaceport at Sutherland has started being built. In fact, I was out there having a look at the works underway yesterday, and that started with us still intending or hoping that there will be launches from that during next year, which is great. But of course, in some respects, the building the spaceport is the opportunity starter for us, and where we're looking to do is to attract space-related businesses into the region, and they'll need highly skilled people. And so there's that as a pressure. We've got the offshore wind developments happening, which are also we're looking to make sure that there are local people to enable those to progress, and that as much of that activity is based here in Caithness and North Sutherland as is physically possible. So we've got a piece of work undergoing on that. What we've done so far is we've engaged a business called Jacobs. You may be aware of them. They have an office in Scrabster. They've been doing work at Dooney for many years. They've got other interests around the world and other things. And in fact, they are an investor company in the spaceport. So they have they're undertaking a piece of work for us, which they're doing pro bono as part of their social responsibility work, to look at the the long-term needs around skilled personnel development, attraction, retention. In other words, how to expand and maintain the workforce that we're going to need in the region as lots of these projects develop. That piece of work is well on. We've got a meeting now on the 12th of June where we'll be reviewing those initial findings, and we're expecting from that a series of work strands to be established to increase the pipeline of people coming into the region, either relocating into the region or training in other areas. So we're expecting that to kick off over the next couple of months. The next piece of work we've undertaken is around transport. This is something again about specifically around transport for people to and from work. You can imagine that since COVID, the world of work has changed significantly. So there's patterns of travel are different. Obviously, Dounreay has been a major user of bus services, for example, over the years, and those needs have changed. College is now doing more online, so there's a lot of change in transport, which is potentially impacting into how future transport is going to be undertaken. At the same time, of course, we're in the process of moving across into net zero transport. So whether it's electric vehicles, hydrogen power, etc., there's a whole, whether it's hydrogen trains, planes, or lorries, or it's electric vehicles, there's a lot of change happening there. So we've got a piece of work that we're just about to commission that is to once again look at what those needs are going to be and help us coordinate our activities with partners to make sure that we are meeting what the future needs of the region are going to be. There's a great deal of work already going on in this space, and we're really just helping with a bit of demand study work that hopefully will inform other partners' activities, and coordinating and making sure that everybody's aware of what the needs are and the direction of travel. That's not a terrible pun, excuse me. That piece of work is going to be undertaken by a consultancy that we've identified that has worked with Neil Osborne's team in the council to look at a similar set of needs in the Cairngorm area, and we're intending to get that work commissioned over the next month. It will be partly funded by Dounreay, and we're also seeking funding from the place-based demonstrator project, which is also going to put money into it. So that we're hoping that work will kick off in the next month. It'll be about a 4-month piece of work, and what will come out of it will be then again fairly comprehensive plan. The third thing, although it's number 2 here, that we've looked at is and this came across very strongly from stakeholder engagement, concerns around digital connectivity. In fact, we're finding few instances where digital connectivity in itself is a barrier to business improvement. There have been a few we've been aware of, but it's actually, this piece of work is widening into looking much more about how do we strengthen our digital economy? How do we make sure we've got the right skilled people? How do we make sure that the businesses that are working locally are getting as much out of their online presence as is possible? Some of the partners have done some great work on this already. There's obviously Digital Boost through Business Gateway, and HIE has done a bit of work on supporting account managed business. But this is again looking at bringing together a piece of work with both skills needed, people who need skills, so the businesses, the digital businesses, but also looking at how we can get more of a digital ecosystem running in the north. So that piece of work I'm leading that. I did have a bit of help from one of the HIE area team, but unfortunately, well, fortunately for her, but unfortunately for me, she's moving roles into a different role inside HIE. So I'm now asked Nicola to be involved in developing that piece of work. Then the next area that we feel is important is promotion of the region and its opportunities. From our launch event, we spoke very strongly about the massive opportunities in our area, and hence the reason why we need more skilled people. And I've circulated to you a fairly advanced draft of a document, which I entitled prospectus, but we think we're actually probably just going to name that document Focus North for a Sustainable Future. It's to highlight the opportunities in the region and allow us to promote ourselves as widely as possible to potential inward investors in particular, to get them to understand what's all going on in the region. So that hopefully you'll have had a chance to have a look at that. You may also have seen the odd piece in the press about, for example, just transition. That's a part of this campaign to just raise our profile and get people to focus on the opportunities here. We're just trying to make some noise to get as much interest as possible, in particular from inward investors, as I've said. And that will continue. We've got other press activity planned over the coming months, and we still intend to visit both Holyrood and Westminster just to raise awareness of the region's opportunities, and that's going to be part of an ongoing programme of actions that we will coordinate, obviously, with our amongst the partners. Then project-specific activities that are ongoing. Offshore wind, we hear a lot about it, and it's still, I think, largely invisible to people just how massive the change that's coming onto us. I was sitting in on a meeting last week, and when you recognise that we've got about 2 gigawatts of offshore wind currently developed, between now and the early 2030s, there's another 35, 36 gigawatts to be developed. And if you look at the things that are happening immediately around our, around our coasts, the ones that are very close and easy to spot, as it were, we've got Pentland Offshore Wind, which is a floating offshore wind demonstrator that's going to be 7.5 kilometres off the coast. That offers us massive opportunities in being involved in developing that technology and the support that's needed for that. So that's a massive opportunity. You've got the west of Orkney wind farm. Both of these farms, by the way, are identifying Scrabster as their base of operations, which is fantastic. So, and those are just the first of several that will be developed. Some of them further offshore, but they're still going to need onshore bases and onshore support. So that is underway, and we're in discussions, kind of in contact with both Pentland and the west of Orkney wind farms as their needs are developing. And then Space Cluster, I've already mentioned that. And the other thing I would just pick out as a highlight is around peatland restoration. I've been involved now for a couple of years on a programme which is the Flow Country Green Finance Initiative, which is an attempt to develop investable opportunities for attracting private finance to help with peatland restoration. The reason I've been involved in this is not because of the peatland restoration, which of course is incredibly important, but it's more about the fact that there is potentially an entire industry there that can be developed around peatland. We've got 400,000 hectares of flow country. Quite a bit of it needs work done to it. There's an opportunity to develop an entire supply chain around that, and that's where we're interested. That project is now in the process of setting up its first structures. So there'll be a Scottish charitable organisation set up to act as the oversight body for that, and then there will be individually identified projects that will then become the investable opportunities underneath that. 3 trials planned starting later in the year, a trial with a farmer, a trial with a landowning estate, and we're working on trying to get a crofting trial so that we can start to identify exactly how it will work and therefore what the size of the potential opportunities are. Okay, I've skipped through those. The only other one I really wanted to talk to you about actually speaks to a lot of that, in that the paper that I sent around to you is something we've been talking. It was originally written when we had Richard Lockhead join us when he was just transition minister. He came up to the region and he kind of challenged us to suggest some ideas, which we did. We're literally just about to resubmit that to the new just transition minister. But if you look at, for example, the transport piece of work is something that sits nicely in that, and we're seeking to develop very specific proposals around that we would want to try and promote as a regional opportunity that will help solve our problem, but also offer insight into how the nation could do the same thing elsewhere. So the idea being that we would, what was a pilot scale activity for a larger area, would actually solve our transport problems and inform that approach elsewhere. And so I think that's largely everything I wanted to cover with you. I put my contact details on there because I put it on everything. But if I stop sharing that, hopefully you can now see me, and I'm happy to take any questions on any of it, including the documents that I sent to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Peter, for a really informative report and full of good news. I have to say, really a lot of promising things there, and a few challenging things, as you said, lack of skilled personnel and housing. But yeah, well done for that very good report, and I'll open it up to the members. Carl, yeah.
Thanks, Ron, and good morning, Peter. It's good to see you as always. It really is exciting. Let me first, I forget when we last met, Peter, but I think we should comment on the rebranding and refocus event that we were able to attend on Thursday. It was absolutely fantastic. You know, feeling the energy in the room. It was really exciting for me just to hear people speaking in between. You know, when there was a bit of downtime, to hear people engaging with each other, exchanging ideas, and just it highlighted absolutely all the other things you say and the level of opportunity that we've got in Caithness and Sutherland. And you know, it's really just to extend that and we should also acknowledge what Jacobs are doing on a pro bono basis. But you know, it's absolutely fantastic how we now engaging with private sector, public sector, and seeing progress towards developing a master plan. So a huge well done on that. And I'm so glad you mentioned peatlands, because that very much typifies what I've just said. You know, a type of partnership. I think it's fantastically led by Stephen Andrews, and it will be really exciting just to see what develops there in terms of further trials and partnerships, and such a significant piece of work in terms of climate change. It would be, I'd be really, I think you're absolutely right, Peter, to touch on offshore wind, because it is such a huge opportunity. And I know you mentioned Scrabster Harbour. I wonder if is there a reason, or should we need to focus on Wick Harbour? I've felt that maybe going off the agenda a wee bit. We certainly haven't met them as councillors recently, but you know, I'm just conscious that Scrabster, you know, their track record speaks for itself, and they seem to adapt. And you know, maybe there's I don't know, some support in or certainly engagement. I know in the past, the Wick Harbour, contacted us we were unable to support them in the way we could. But look, I don't think there's any doubt. As Caithness councillors, we'd be keen to support that in any way. On the wider opportunities around offshore wind, I was able to recently engage with some of our colleagues in Orkney. I found that really exciting. Some of the things that they've done, developing a hydrogen hub. But then it was on being in practical terms, Peter, and some of the other things you mentioned, and skills gaps and how we address that. So we spoke about STEM technology, and I think they're going to develop some type of centre of excellence, for want of a better description. Do we need to focus on that in Caithness? I don't think that would be a bad idea. I'm really keen for us to work further with UHI for that reason. I don't know how much of a discussion you heard this morning, but these are the opportunities that we could build on and deliver in Caithness. It never fails to amaze me. And past week, Peter, it sounds like you're very much the same. So I had engagement. I've written 4 of them down. So it was proposals around airports. I'm going to be involved in a meeting with later in, I think it's June. I think Raymond's participating in his capacity as leader of council, but it's very eminent and significant things that can be implemented across the Highland airports. I think it's more in terms of air freight, but they're developing new technology, really exciting stuff. And one of the thing that most piqued my interest, and I'm fairly certain we may have had a discussion in the past, Peter. We spoke about a bus stop model for aviation in Caithness, and I can remember, oh goodness me, I think it'd be 5 years or so ago, where I think we had Chief Executive Hyle, and he was giving us a response on that, and that in itself seemed a long way away at the time. The model was fantastic, but look, that seems to be very much becoming a possibility. It could be delivered in a short to medium term using either electric or hydrogen fuel as a means of propulsion. But a bus stop model, when I asked to probed on it, it seemed to be that people could get on an aircraft in Loughinver, as an example. It could pop across to wherever, but just 5 years ago it was not a realistic proposal. But now we seem to have people who have put meaningful studies in that, and they do have proposals. So really exciting stuff. The other stuff, proposals relating to nuclear industry, which I think is fantastic, and how they can maybe transition, further. And then broadband connectivity remains that there are firm proposals where we could improve that, and of course hydrogen. So all of these things, and it really is exciting. So really good to hear your own report and the updates that you've got. So maybe good, Peter, if we could get a proper chat with you and speak about some of these things I mentioned in detail soon. So I'll get in touch with you separately on that. That'd be fantastic. But thanks, Peter.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Carl. Yeah, and I note there what you say about Scrabster. I think it would make sense to do that. I did attend a meeting to do with Scrabster. I think I was only a councillor there, and it's more to do with the cruise line side of things. But again, I think we can open that up, and I'll take a note of that anyway. And
Peter was wanting to respond.
Yeah, if I'm happy to just pick up a few of those points, Carl, you've effectively highlighted the problem that I have, which is I could take up your entire meeting from the start to the finish, talking about the opportunities and where we are with them. Honestly, I'm not joking. So Wick Harbour, yes, absolutely. The reason I mentioned Scrabs is only because the first 2, if you like, happen to be in easy reach of Scrabster. But the Folk offshore farm, which is a little further away in terms of geographically, but also slightly further away in terms of consenting and so on, you know, is a prime target, if you want to call it that, for Wick, being the, you know, the primary base for that to be supported, plus other of the farms that are further out that are going to need port capacity. You know, if you think about the size of that industry, it's going from 2 to 36, you know, in numbers, if you just pick those numbers. That's a massive amount of opportunity in terms of what the capacity needed just to service those wind farms. And because of the nature of our ports, we're more likely to be included in the operation and maintenance and the build phases in a slightly different way, because there's not vast amounts of laydown space that they need for laying out these huge structures. So it's more likely we'll be, so our ports are likely to be involved slightly later in the process. So those opportunities are still maybe not quite as visible as they were, but absolutely, Wick undoubtedly will have great opportunities to develop as a result of that. Hydrogen stuff you mentioned, yes, we've got potential for hydrogen powered vessels going out of Wick on CTVs. We've got still expecting trials for hydrogen powered trains between Thurso and Wick next year. Obviously, be aware of the Sustainable Air Test Environment project, which is looking at hydrogen powered aircraft. And you mentioned, you know, the sort of point-to-point type transport. That's entirely possible. You know, you can, if you spin forwards 20 years, it might be that people in the Highlands are whizzing around in personal drones, sort of thing. You know, I don't know the technologies. Every time you open a technical publication, somebody else has invented something else unbelievable. You know, the STEM stuff. Yes, I perhaps should have mentioned that already. One of the first investments from the offshore wind between the offshore wind partners is 900,000 going into STEM engagement across the Highlands, which will result in one new post at UHI here in Thurso, and 2 half posts in covering the rest of the region, Caithness and Sutherland, that is, and 1 post in Orkney, and that's just a kind of a starting point. So that's you know, the offshore wind developers absolutely see their own supply chain in terms of workforce as being really important to them, and I'm sure that further investments will be made as time progresses. I'll leave it at that, because I really could honestly go on and, you know, wax lyrical.
Thanks very much, Peter. Yeah, it's very good. As I said, it's covered a lot of different things. Oh, Willie, you want to come in there?
Yes, hi Peter, good to see you again. Good to see you again, Peter. Yes, I had a very interesting, I compared an event, Peter, in the E-Tech building there a few weeks ago for the children, and primary and school children in Caithness, and it was the first Lego League Challenge, building robots, it all centered around STEM, science, technology, engineering, maths. The children, there was 10 teams taking part from all over Caithness, building robots and getting robots to do exactly what they wanted. It was a fantastic event. It lasted about 6 hours, and let's hope it'll be continued next year. But really, really opened my eyes as to what the children could do, just when you mentioned STEM. A couple of questions for you, Peter. I travel the county quite a lot, as you know, and I'm very interested in the transport situation, which is a major worry for you at the moment. And we used to have a successful bus users group here in Caithness, and one of the biggest complaints was the lack of services. Now, Peter, I think it's well known now we have three suppliers here in the Caithness who are running across the county. There's more services in Caithness, in rural county, than we ever had, with Stagecoach, Arons and Dunnets. And I'm just wondering how long this is going to last, because some of them are running in tandem, some of them are running empty, and it's great to see, but how can they sustain this? And I know it's a major worry for you, transport across the county, so good luck with that. One other question I've got for you, I'm very interested and have been for years in the renewable energy, onshore, offshore and tidal. You mentioned a possibility of 36 gigawatts. That is absolutely colossal, because I think, according to my little laptop here, a gigawatt is 1 billion watts. 1 billion watts. That's just unbelievable. So my question to you is, how much engaging are you doing with SSE? Because they are improving the infrastructure in this county immensely. They are really covering the whole county, and it's very impressive in what they're doing. So, Peter.
Yeah, okay. I agree
on
with you on SSE, and actually, funnily enough, our team meeting this morning was talking about the contact at SSE that we're approaching on SSE renewables. So one of the things that we having to do, Willie, is we've got relatively limited resources, so we need to focus on the things that we are able to make the biggest difference in most quickly, and mobilize those resources for other people when we can. And that's, so coming back to transport, you quite rightly pointed out the current situation. We've got kind of one eye on, well, where is that going to go in the future, and how is it going to bring together is quite a complex transport system. You're quite right with the bus providers. We've got potentially, we've also got community groups that are doing some transport in the more rural areas. We've got your colleagues at Highland Council looking at hydrogen buses and how that might be invested in. So, and there's some funding currently in the pipeline to allow for investment in hydrogen or EV type buses. So what's likely to come out in the future is going to be quite different. You know, the chances are that buses might be smaller, for example, or that might be more demand-based transport. We know that some of the big users, Dunray in particular, have different needs. So really, the bit that we're trying to look at here is, what will a future solution look like, and how will these pieces fit together, so that anything that's being done has kind of got that same platform of information to make sure that we've not got, 3 bus providers all competing with each other and effectively, investing in something when a slightly different arrangement might have meant that you got 3 times the bus service rather than 3 services doing the same thing. So it's really that it's about integration and collaboration where it's possible, to make sure that we've got a single vision on what we're trying to get to. So that helps answer the question.
Fine, thank you, Peter. Thank you, Chair.
Lovely, thanks. Yeah, thanks very much, Peter. It's always been a fascinating thing to see what could well be happening in the future. No, it's good, and thanks again for coming along, giving a presentation, and keep up the good work. Yeah,
thank you very
we'll
much.
catch up with you some other time.
Yeah, indeed. All right, thanks.
Okay, thanks again.
Cheers.
Yeah. Okay, after that, where are we now? Item number 8, education HMI update. Who got 1 or 2 here? Who's going to start off with that one then?
Yeah, I think it will be me that starting off with that, if I can find my paperwork. So thank you very much, councillors, for inviting us this afternoon. And I got my sidekick, or head teacher as I call him as well, Sebastian Sandeki, who's the acting head teacher at Wick High School. We're bringing our report today around the successful inspection from HMI that Wick High School had in December. And obviously it's very, very secret, and I go through really rigorous quality assurance processes before we can then share it with the wider community. But we are especially really proud of this report as council officers. This was the first secondary school we had inspected after COVID. And obviously after COVID, we're not sure exactly how HMI would approach the inspections. So have the outcome as we had was highly, highly possible, or positive, I would say. Obviously, I'm not going to read the report for you, but I would like you to note the strengths of the schools. Hang on, if I can find my computer is just playing up at the right times, right? So the following strengths of the school that I would like to point out was the leadership of Sebastian in his role as head teacher, and they talk about an aspirational culture, which also then was well supported by the deputy head teacher and the faculty heads. And I think that's a tremendous acknowledgement from HMI of the good work that this school has been done pre-COVID, during COVID, and also after COVID. But also what we like to see is the collaborative approaches by all staff that improves the outcomes for young people. The second one was positive relationships, which supported a climate for learning. And we found that staff and young people treated each other with respect, fostering a calm and orderly learning environment. And I know it's easy to see something in a report, but the amount of work that will have gone into that by the school again to have that and create that is tremendous. And the last one, I think, or last one, I shouldn't call it last one, but the last one they highlighted was also the young people who identified strongly with their community in Caithness. They were friendly, keen to learn, taking pride in their contributions to the life and work of the school, but also for the local area. And you can see the scoring that were coming out. Obviously, as parents, quite often you just go straight to the scoring, but there were 2 goods and 2 satisfactories. But I think Sebastian will come in on this as well. I think, as I said, we were delighted with what came out of this report because we haven't had an easy ride over the last few years. Sebastian, do you want to go over a wee bit, maybe of the next steps that are highlighted too, the school's taking forward?
Sure. Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
For having us today. Yes, as Annika has said, I'll repeat that as well, that we are very pleased to see the report coming as it was, highlighting our strengths and kind of directing us towards our development needs. I would say the main thing, as much as it was a very positive outcome, it wasn't anything that we were unaware of. So we were pleased to see, if you looked into our own evaluation, as much as maybe our rating in 2020-21-22 star quality report was lower, our own self-evaluation to satisfactory in each area, the actions that we recognized were very similar, or the points that we've recognized in our own school evaluation were very similar. And one thing that they've identified as well, or recognized in the report, is that our school improvement priorities, our school improvement plan was prioritizing the right needs of development and started the course of improvements in the direction that they were very pleased to see. What that report provided for us, as I said, it wasn't much of a new to know where we are, but it helped us to prioritize and take the steps in the directions that we needed to go with our improvement plan for the following years. And our priorities always were in health and well-being and always were in raising attainment. And those 2 areas will remain as a priority for the following years. Those 2 areas as well in the report are satisfactory. And this is why we'll take a bigger priority to turn the current on that. And hopefully if they were to return in a few years' time, it would be all good or excellent in those aspects. And that report gives kind of quite specific detail, not the report that you've got in front of you, but the HMI report is a big document that identifies specifically for us what actions we should be taking to improve that aspects, which is very good, as I say, to have that confirmed, what we need to do. And some aspects of the health and well-being, what we are looking to do, and we started that journey already, is to give pupils more voice. We've re-established our pupil council, and hopefully that will allow us to reach to pupils and to their parents as well, and create a council that works and operate in a way to move the direction of the school forward. So that's one of the aspects in terms of the health and well-being that they've recognized, that we should be looking further into giving pupils more opportunity for voice and more opportunity for expressing where do they feel that the school should be going as well. There's other elements of the health and well-being as well that we are tackling as well. Responsibility of a whole school for the aspects of health and well-being. That was always, I would say, on the agenda for us, but maybe didn't take the whole priority. It was literacy and numeracy across the whole school. Now we need to put the health and well-being back on the agenda, that is evident in every classroom, is seeing that we are having that focus. Of course, there's the issues of the health and well-being. On that bracket is the attendance as well that comes to that. Is the chronic non-attendance, the low attendance that is affecting the rating, and that is part of the reason. If you're asking why is it satisfactory, why is it not good as the other aspects, the attendance is an issue. It's an issue for us. It's an issue in other schools in Highland, and speaking to my colleagues nationally, it is an issue across the country. And this is why in the report, as much as it says that this is something we need to do, it recognizes that it is in line with national figures. But those figures are low, and they are low for us, and they are low across, and that needs to be, work needs to be put in place to turn the currents on that. Other aspects, as I said, the raising attainment for us always was the key priority in the school, but there's different factors that will feed into the increase of attainment. And one of the aspects that you will see in the report provided for you is to create the pathways. We've already started that journey for our pupils. We've started changing the curriculum, and we are addressing that. Our students within this year will have an opportunity to study more subjects than they did before, have more qualifications. There'll be qualifications in the different areas than we had before. And even just to give you a sample of information, when we've collected the data of this tracking data of this exam that the pupils are setting forward, our S4 students are in line with national and Highland data. The S5-6 is a longer journey until the changes in curriculum will have a full effect to the older children as well, as that journey started for us just 2 years ago of the change of the curriculum. But the effects already are evident in our tracking data, and that was recognized as well by the inspectors, that the way how we analyze data is leading to improvements. There's aspects how we need to get better, and we're working with the primary schools using the data from our primary school colleagues, from the head teachers. So we're working with them, so they all provided with the same format accessible for us, so we can very quickly make the best use of that and get to know the pupils that are coming to us in S1 and start targeting that very, very quickly, and making all the pupils aware where do we have them and what needs to be done in that aspect. Another element that will always leads to improving attainment for us is, of course, quality of learning and teaching. And as much as, of course, in the report you see that it's been recognized as a good, which I'm very pleased for our staff here who are working very hard, that recognition has been given there, because we've put a lot of work into that element of work, that element of school, that the quality of learning and teaching that the pupils receive is quite high. We still recognize that it's not fully consistent across the school, that there are pockets of excellence, but there's a room to go further with the consistency of excellence across the board. And this is what will be priority for us to build on in the next session as well. And hopefully that will lead further to improved attainment. The last aspect that will be part of our priority for the school improvement plan would be developing youth workforce. This is elements as well that's been recognized, working with partners, but we want to push that further to working with external partners, working with employers in the design of the curriculum, in the design of the pathways, but also in providing work experience and providing other elements out of the curriculum for our children. So that will be the priorities for us to move on.
Thank you. Just before I open up to members, there's a lot to be proud of there. It's a very good report. I'm delighted to see the positive comments about the pupils and the area and everything, and the leadership side of things. That there are a few challenges in attendance, but that's not unique to you. It's it's across the board. So yeah, well done. I'll open up now to members if they wish to see. Raymond.
Yep, well done. How good is it to read a report that actually singles you out, Seb? That must be quite a humbling experience reading that. What an endorsement. Crikey, I can't imagine how good that would be if to show exactly what's underpinning achievement and progress at a high school. So yeah, take that on the shoulders, a good pat on the back for yourself there for a start. And it's right at the start of the report, which is for me is the underlying theme right throughout. Everything is then based on the evaluation of the head teacher, the acting head teacher, and all the senior support staff that are at the school there. There are so many things to I mean, that it's a gutsy report. It's got a lot of indicators in there, a lot of evaluation indicators, and I have to say a lot of stuff that most of us would not even relate with the education establishment. So it just shows you what a complex beast it is that you're having to deal with. And with the school role that the size that Wick High School has in a remote and rural area, with some of the challenges that it has in particular areas, SIMD classification and individual students and groups of students who can come to school with their own agenda, but yet that has to be dealt with in its own way. I've got some questions, if you don't mind, and they are purely in fact, one of them you addressed. You said that you were restarting the student council because that was one of the queries I had. Is there a student representative council, what we used to call an SRC in the olden days, of which I was a part? And what is the makeup of that SRC, and how do you see the role of that going forward? The second one is when we're talking about health and well-being of the students within the school environment. To what extent has bullying, because bullying is part and parcel, unfortunately, of every school establishment. Sometimes, from various backgrounds, troubled backgrounds, issues that are not part of the school environment that are brought within the school environment, which can disrupt school, which can land up being a problem for teachers to deal with because of physical violence, but also the hidden element of it, and the psychological element of it as well. To what extent do you believe that the report, because it doesn't actually, you don't see where it actually specifically homes in on that, but it deals with it in many ways in terms of the health and well-being agenda. So how is that currently at Wick High School? And my last query is to do with the preparation of going on in life, which is part of the report. It's a specific part of the report, is preparing young adults for life out with the school environment, because it's not all just about understanding how to mathematics, physics, and what. It's the application of the whole learning environment to the living environment beyond school and into the further education environment, but also into the employment environment. That's all contained in that document as well. To what extent does the school engage with its partners out with the school environment? Is that through work experience, collaboration and cooperation with places of work that can actually support that? Because students can be more practically minded than they are academically minded. To what extent are we realising those opportunities coming to fruition within the confines of the report? So three particular things there: the Student Representative Council, the bullying aspect, and also the preparation for future life. All of which I think is incorporated in the report in various forms, but maybe a direct response from yourself, Seb. And thanks very much. Fantastic report. It's really good actually to see this. See if you've been in council since 2017 and the difference that has happened within Wick High School itself. That to me, I would say I have not come across another school within the entire Highland School estate that has shown such a turnaround in terms of going from where it was prior to 2017 to where it is in 2023. So that's something to reflect on, not just for the past period of time for this report, but for years before that. So well done, everybody at Wick High School, and good luck in getting it into the public arena, because it rarely gets there with big enough lights and loud enough trumpets. Thanks.
Thank you, Raymond. Yeah, do you want to address the questions there, and I'll move on to Carl then?
Yeah, probably easier for me to address those three and then take more. Yes, thank you. We are very pleased. I'm personally pleased as well with the recognition of what they had. As you know, I'm acting, so that's been a tough journey since I've taken on. Especially I've taken on in February, and a month later I needed to shut the school for COVID. So it was a hard going at the very beginning, you know. But so that is, for myself, it is a good recognition that what step we've taken were the right steps, and as difficult as it was, it's helping us move the school forward. In terms of the pupil council, it's something that we had before, as you've said, Raymond. So we've got a makeup of that. It's every class in the school in every year group's got 2 representatives. We've actually had a meeting, initially meeting to teach pupils how councils operate. We had a Caithness Community councillors coming over to kind of discuss with them how sessions of council works, the operational makeup of that. And now we've got the role of that. So there's a junior school that will be represented and senior school, two councillors from every class. And the role of that will be twofold in one way. One is the school as recognized as the whole school initiatives that's driven by the report, that's driven by the school improvement plan. One of the role that the task of the council at the moment that the pupils will have to bring within the school, to bring to staff, and to bring to parents and communities, is to revisit the vision, value, and aim for the school. This is something that we've had established for a while, but that needs to now, and that was recognized, that needs to be refreshed, that needs to be revisited. So they will do a work on that. But the second aspect of their role is to bring the voice of pupils and parents to us. So then we can cooperate and make the improvements not only by what we think is best, but to give pupils their voice that they deserve as well. So that's where we are hoping to go with the sessions with the council, and hoping to build up on that and kind of create that culture that pupils do understand that they do have a say in how the school is. In terms of bullying, in fact, the report slightly recognizes that issue. It says that there's an issue for minority bullying, and in reflection, I think that this is something, as you said, Raymond, yourself. It's not a new concept that bullying is evident in schools. It's not only evident in schools, but in other aspects of life as well. But what's been recognized, and that was quite an eye opener for us as well here in Wick, that with the catchment that we've got, the school doesn't deal with a huge number of problems in that area, whether that's a behavioral issues, bullying issues, elements of violence. They are of course evident in the schools, but the number of exclusions that we have, the number of this sort of severe problems are very small in comparison to other schools. And the few of those inspectors, even in informal discussions with them that I've had when they were coming from Dundee, Glasgow, they said that school, when they walk into the school in Wick High School, it's a calm environment, pupils are friendly, and it doesn't feel that this is the catchment that the school serves. It feels like a school serving completely different groups. So that was quite welcoming to our pupils to hear that about our pupils, and also for our staff, that majority of pupils do feel safe in the school, and they do recognize that aspect that is. However, saying all that, we do recognize that minority does experience this sort of difficulties experience, and we take it very seriously, each aspect of them, and try to go to the bottom. Often problems are brought to us from outside from the community that comes to our doors, but we try to deal with that with We invest a lot of additional funding into youth action team, into family link workers, into CSW team, counseling services, and that helps in that aspect of health and well-being, but also with the element of dealing with this sort of problems. So I wouldn't say it's a big problem. It is a big problem, but not on a large scale. That's how I would phrase that. And last one, preparing. You've asked about how do we prepare pupils for living going beyond school. Like our data, I would say that our data in terms of a positive destination are quite good. And we've had that historically for a while, that over 96% of our pupils reach a positive destination, which in a sense justifies that what we do in preparation for them is good. But we are going further, as I say. This is why the priority is, as you've said yourself, the priority for us is DYW, developing youth workforce. We are looking to work with employers, not only to provide work experience, but also to hear from them. How do we need to prepare pupils to beyond school? What skills, what qualities they expect us to prepare the pupils with, to equip them with? And one aspect recently, myself and another deputy, we've attended the Focus North conference in Torso. And one aspect of that conference was that, in discussion with employers, but also hearing from the keynote speakers, was the confidence that they find that pupils in Caithness in general, Torso and Wick, that they lack that element of confidence. And we are already sort of thinking at the back of that. How do we bring that back on? How can we improve pupils' confidence coming from Caithness going into the work of life? And an aspect to tackle that element of that is that we've, as I said, in the change of the curriculum, we've employed a drama teacher. So that is a new aspect of the curriculum that we'll do, as we've done the research, seeing that is a subject that maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but that aspect of confidence, it really builds up to. Plus, there's obviously, in Caithness, the Caithness players. It is something, that aspect of the curriculum that wasn't fully addressed, and that was missing. So that opportunity to help on that also will allow pupils maybe to be better prepared. But we are also looking to listen more to the employers, to the people from outside. How do we need to prepare our pupils to live beyond the school? Another aspect to address that, we are looking at the wider achievements. So not only the core subjects, as you said, English, maths, but also other elements, wider achievements beyond classroom, providing more opportunities for that, but also at the same time, pupils who are involved in them, having them formally recognized with the SQA qualifications. So this is how we are moving forward with that.
Chair, can I just put it in the chat? Is it possible that I could come back just for 2 seconds, because I need to leave after that? Thanks very much for that, Seb. Everything that you mentioned there just now was I can reflect on, because you're right. I mean, that was what I was talking about with the references in the report. But really interesting what you said there at the end. I thoroughly endorse what you said about drama. I came from a first-line pilot school when I was much younger, when I was a lot younger. And that first-line pilot school had a fully equipped theatre, 3 music rooms, 3 practice rooms, and we put on a musical every single year. And the first one that we ever did in 1980, was it? 1981? I'm that old, I can't remember. Was Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. It was packed out, sold out, and made the school a lot of money. People paid to see these things. What an experience it was for everybody that got involved in that. It was a real release. So it might not be everybody's cup of tea. I assure you, I think that here in Caithness, we absolutely embrace the arts. I just wish that council had an awful lot more money that they could support it with, but we don't. But initiatives in the school environment are definitely one of the places that we can develop that for going forward in the future. So well done on that. I think that's a really, really good positive move, and I would be absolutely delighted to attend when you first put on a show like that. And you'll recall that you used to have the Mad Club, remember, in Wick High School, the music and drama. It was called the Mad Club. It was everything but mad. It was just fantastic. So absolutely fantastic. Thanks very much for your updates, and I'll bid you all goodbye now. I'm afraid I have to leave. I'm actually going to visit some schools. So see you later, everybody, and thanks again, Seb. Big congratulations to everybody at Wick High School.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone, for your input. Move on there, Carl. I think you got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. And I think we're in the good afternoon now, Seb. It's good to see you. And yourself, Annika, thanks very much for the report. It really is fantastic. Raymond's said everything that I would have said and more, and is absolutely warranted. So a huge well done to you. You know, it's a really important point you made in your response, Seb, when you highlighted having to deal with and manage COVID pandemic. You know, it's, gee, goodness only knows when you think about it now, it cannot have been easy. So you know, I only highlights further how far your achievements have got. But I was going to ask a question on it really related to a section about partnership, collaboration, and self-improvement. But you've answered it perfectly, Seb. And I reminded myself that I think we had a very brief conversation at the Focus North event. So, you know, you've demonstrated to me just how you do engage with external stakeholders. On that point, I'll close by just making a request, if you don't mind. We earlier on as councillors had a fairly lengthy debate about Thurso High School. But I want to make a point to my ward councillors and make a request of yourselves. Would it be possible for us as ward councillors to visit Wick High School? Now, the reason I say that, I've been fortunate enough recently to be able to do so. Not entire school, but so my experiences involved arriving to see how kids and parents how they transport themselves to your school, and you know, it's an order thing, and it's obvious. You can see kids enjoying it. But what you know, I experience, you can see a Muga facility, a swimming pool, adjacent library, and it just speaks, when you speak about health and well-being, it's no surprise that how things have improved. So you know, I think it'd be very useful for us as ward councillors, given a conversation we had around Thurso High School this morning, to visit Wick High School and you know, glean some experience from yourself, further experience, and other schools and across Scotland. You know, so. But look, thanks again, Seb, and best of luck to you in your continuing endeavours. Thank you, and you, Annika. Thanks.
Thank you. And yes, you're absolutely more than welcome to come and visit us, and we can tie it in with a pupil council meeting as well. They would be delighted if they could meet you as well, you know, and have a chat to you.
That's good. Thanks very much for that. Yeah, we look forward to that. Anybody else? Any other members got anything? No. Well, again, well done. A lot of, you know, I won't repeat what's been said earlier, but yes, truly well done. And the committee has been invited to note the key strengths and the next steps for Wick High School as reported on the report. So is that all noted, members? Yeah. Yep. Yes. Thanks again. Thanks very much. And
thank you.
Just to keep in with the education, item number 9 is my future, my success, and another successful story, shall we say? So I'll open it up to whoever wishes to lead on that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gunn. It's Maxine Garson, the Senior Education Lead for Skills, Employability and Prosperity. I'm delighted to present to you and members today a report on the My Future, My Success, which sets out the progress in Caithness and compares data and compares its data to Highland for Education and Learning Directorate as a direct result and support of the decisions you made as members regarding the direction and commitment of the Economic Prosperity Fund. The report highlights and exemplifies in detail the programme of work which has been co-constructed with young people and key stakeholders. Our programme of work has been set to ensure that there is deeper relationship and activities between schools, employers and the wider community, taking a place-based approach to supporting our young people. The My Future, My Success team are supported to engage their communities to co-create meaningful experiences for our most vulnerable young people, supporting the learning to focus on the alignment of real-world need and application. There's a focus on the skills and understanding and the application of this in the real world context, supporting our learners to be exposed to opportunities for better informed decisions in their futures and their skills for life, work and learning. Members looking inwards on the Caithness data, 35 young people have been referred to My Future, My Success since the 15th August 2022. 11% of all the referrals have been made to the programme. The current group of leavers, 6 of the 7 are on target to achieve a positive destination, and we continue to work with all young people. The healthcare pathway pilot and the pharmacy sponsorship is the direct response to tackling the shortage of healthcare workers in the Caithness area and in partnership with NHS Highland. We currently have 18 mentors in the Caithness area from a range of companies and individuals who have all volunteered to support at least one young person, and all mentors are offered training and supervision as part of this programme. The programme of work has begun to maximise the opportunities available for all our vulnerable young people. In partnership with our directorate partners, this will provide a smooth education to retirement support pathway with the employability team and better alignment to a variety of apprenticeship opportunities within the Highland Council and other community planning partnerships. This support supports young people to secure a positive and sustained destination, as well as furnish them with the right tools to help them to thrive, strive, prosper and contribute to our Highland economy. Chair, I can give you an overview. However, it's always important to ensure that the young person's voice is heard, as we heard in the last paper. And I'm really delighted to welcome Shakira McPhee with our Development Officer Tracy Anderson, who will give you a first-hand account of their My Future, My Success experience. Shakira was referred to My Future, My Success on the 25th of November 2022 from Wick High School, where her attendance at that point was at 32%. I had the absolute pleasure to spend last Thursday with her at the Social Enterprise celebration in Inverness, which I'm sure she will tell you more about. Chairman, can I ask Shakira to share her story?
Absolutely, and welcome the two of you. Yes, please share your story.
Hi. Well, my story begins. Oh, I don't know.
You're okay. Just
You're
take your
right.
time. Just take your time. Don't be nervous.
Well, my story begins on going to the Wick High School. So, well, I never really fit in at Wick High School. It was like more of me getting bullied, and like nothing got seen about it until like I start going to My Future, My Success, and where I met Tracy, and just completely changed my life. It has, and it's just made me so happy meeting new friends and yeah, just being there for them and just learning about everything, the social enterprise care, and that's it's really fun. It is. And about the college as well.
And you've had 100% attendance?
Yeah.
At college?
And I applied for a modern apprentice apprenticeship for the NHS, and I sadly did not fall through, which is sad.
No, but you got an interview and you
Yeah.
did your interview, but you've got a place at college this year?
Place at college for a pathway course as well, so that's all right.
Very good. Yes, well done. Yeah. And it's quite brave to come forward here and speak to all of us here about it. It's a really good example of what the work has been done, and obviously you've got a lot out of it. With 100% attendance is a good time to start off with. So well done indeed. Yes, well done. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
So, Chair, I welcome any questions, and I'm sure Shakira or Tracy will be happy to take any questions as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much. I'll open it up to members if they've got any comments or questions on it.
Yeah.
Carl, there you go.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks very much for the report. It really is a fascinating read, and particular thanks to you, Shakira. It's you always, as councillors, you're I think you're party to conversations many times and how we try and shape policy to help people. And reading this paper, it really it reinforced to me, how important it is and just what can be achieved. But your own efforts are fantastic, and look, I wish you good luck in whatever you pursue up. The NHS pathway that really caught my eye, because I was thinking about in the past when we were in our redesign process for local health and social care. That was one of the things that NHS Highland immediately highlighted was, a skills gap and how we could improve it. So here we are later on, and you know, we found a route to provide opportunities for people such as yourselves, Shakira. So it's fantastic. So best of luck to you. So look, just a heartfelt thanks to everyone for a report that really is encouraging. So thank you.
I was going to also say, Shakira was our team leader at our social enterprise project as well, and it's been amazing for me to see how she's helped build all the friendships with other girls. You know, it's been a really empowering experience to see. It's obviously geography areas, you know, they were dotted about from like Leicester, Castown, Lawton, Thurso, Wick, and they didn't know each other when they came in, and you know, dynamics was a bit off at the beginning, and now they've actually become really, really good friends that are like really caring towards each other, really supportive of their future. So it's been great. It's been amazing for me as well, to see what this year has, you know, become and what they've all achieved.
Yeah, it was very good, Shakira. If you don't mind, I've just got one question for you. What made you get involved in it in the first place? Is that?
Well, it's like I just felt like I weren't judged and I was in a safe environment and like everybody respected me and it was just everyone was there for me when I needed them, and it just made me want like more of what Tracy and the others have to give. So, and it's helped me a lot. It has, just being there with friends, learning about loads of stuff. And yeah, it's quite nice.
Good. It's good to hear. Yes, it really is. And congratulations and well done. Yes,
Thank you.
thanks. Thank you. And also to the other people involved in it as well. Without them, it wouldn't be a success, you know. Is no more members got anything to say on that? No? Well,
just before I go, you know, if
sorry,
if any of you want to be mentors or pass for mentoring on, you know, I can't miss an opportunity like that. It's on the website now, isn't it? It's on My Scott, so feel free to pass it on to everyone that you can, because we're more mentors that come on board and different opportunities for young people. It's amazing. So yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't go without saying that.
Oh, you're quite right. Yes, make the most of it and get people to share their experiences. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So congratulations again. I think the committee is invited to congratulate the progress. You know, my future, my success, and no problem doing that. And also thank the mentors and celebrate the young people on their future destinations. So we'll be delighted to do that, I'm quite sure. So well done again, and we might catch up with you some other time.
Thank you very much, Chairman.
Oh, sorry, Carl, I missed it.
No, yeah, it's just a very brief point. I think in response to what Tracy said, I think hearing Seb Raymond asked a question about student participation, you know, and I was really interested to hear the answer. But I mean, it's self-evident from what Shakira's contribution was today. So, as an adult, I'm under no illusion about what I can learn from young people, and I think it's so important that we as elected members, we've got to encourage it in every way we can, you know, and it's so valuable to have input from young people. So good. Thanks again.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Catch you again.
Thank you.
Okay then.
Thank you.
Right, members, we're on item 10. I know it's been a wee while since we had a break. Do you want to take a break, or do you want to continue? It's entirely up to yourselves what you want to do. Anybody? We'll just keep going.
Crack on, Ron.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll crack on. It shouldn't hopefully get through it quite quickly now. But item 10, I shall hand over to our ward manager.
That's great. Hi, members. Are you all well? Bearing up under the strain. We will, if I just go back to the beginning of now, if anyone's got their hand up, I won't be able to see it because I'm working off one screen and I only have.
That's okay.
Okay, so members are going to be asked to approve. This is community asset transfers. There's two of them. There's the land at Loch Street, Wick, which the St Fergus Bowling Club are looking to take over and do some development, and there is the land at opposite Thrumster Primary School there. If members are happy, I'll just go through them together. I'll not go through the whole report because you have them and members are aware of them, but very briefly, the St Fergus Bowling Club has requested ownership of the Loch Street garages. The club, the proposal is to demolish the garages and construct an indoor bowling facility for members of the club and the wider community to use. Let me just have a wee look down. So the overall summary: it's a solid application, well-established organisation. They've got the potential to deliver strong physical and mental health benefits to the community. They've got a lot of history of they raised money themselves to build their own club. Oh, sorry, was that someone?
No, sorry, Mike. I was coughing. Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. So they have a mixture of fundraising and the skills that they have within their membership have meant that they've brought their own building. They've demonstrated that they can do it. The development costs seem realistic, and the group has, as I say, a track record of fundraising and delivering reasonable sized projects. It's recommended to approve the sale of it for £1 with all of the sort of normal caveats that go along with it, being that there's no cost to the Highland Council. The St Fergus Bowling Club cover all of the property and legal costs. It is HRA ground, so it's subject to Scottish Minister approval. As I say, I won't go through all the conditions, but that's there to protect so should the club at any point in the future become a body that isn't able to or shouldn't have a community asset transfer, then the council has a right to purchase it back, and that's just to stop or to protect that asset from being sold in the open market going forward. So moving on to the Thrumster Community Development Company, so they've requested a transfer of us around 5 acres of land, which includes the Thrumster Play Park, tennis court, vacant marshland to the east and north, where they intend to do a bit of planting there. That ground's not particularly good, but it's an ambitious programme. Significant funds are required to realise the ambition. However, if successful, the proposal would utilise a currently unused grassland area and bring significant benefit to the small community of Thrumster, providing additional facilities within the local community. It is proposed that the CAP be supported, but with conditions of transfer as outlined below. And this is slightly different than this one in the fact that obviously the Thrumster Community Development Company covers all the property and legal costs as before. But we would look for evidence of planning, evidence of funding to be in place before it went ahead. I think they're quite well on with the funding. In actual fact, they seem to have some good offers from wind farms and such like, all dependent on the community asset transfer going through. Do members have any specific questions on these two community asset transfers? Willie?
Am I the only one from Wicklow East Caithness?
The last man standing.
Am I the only one who decisions rest with myself? Yes, certainly I agree with this. It's very good. St Park is a very, very well organised club, very progressive, great ideas, and they've got a great membership as well. So it's good to see them venturing to take on this area. And the Thrumster site, yes, I like to see this being approved because it's a site you can see from the road when you're going through the village, and you often wonder what could be done with that. So yeah, fair. Great. Yeah, certainly approve that. No questions, Mark, but I certainly go along with the proposals.
So I suppose we would ask, Anne, would it be appropriate for you to ask that question? Are members all happy to approve, or?
That's for members.
Yes, yeah.
So Carl's got his hand up.
Yeah, it was merely to, I think we should recognise what's happened in both circumstances on fantastic work. So more than happy to support that. I think it's only right that we listen to local ward members' contributions first. So more than happy to support. Thank you.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Okay. So next, do you want me just to go next item in the
Just
agenda?
carry on.
Okay, so next item in the agenda is, and again we won't go through them. It's the ward discretionary applications for 22-23. They are actually on record on the Highland Council website as well, and this is more just for noting, so that it appears on those committee papers. That's me finished, Ron.
Yep. Thanks very much, and are we all quite happy to note that discretionary fund? Yeah. I would just like to say that, you know, the discretionary awards funds has helped so many different groups in both wards, and I think it was something like £16,710 paid out in Ward 2 and 18,445 paid out in Ward 3, and you know, it's good to know that in this financially challenging times that the administration have managed to protect this funds for another year. So that's good news for Caithness. Yep. Thanks. Now we've got members are requested to note the details of other issues of interest, and that was to do with the invitation to pay income. I don't know, did you get a chance to have a look at that papers? But it's just a request to note the details. That I think there was some money there that was made available through the invitation to pay. I think the Riverside car park got just over £9,000 back, and the Camps car park got just under £2,000 back on the invite to pay. So in the Caithness Common Good Fund, they got just over £10,000 back. So that's progress money for people that are invited to pay and not requested to pay.
I would, if I just comment, it's the Wick Common Good Fund, that one.
Sorry, what did I say?
Okay.
Sorry.
You said Caithness.
Oh, sorry, it's the Wick Common Good.
Thurso do have a Common Good Fund that's coming, but just
we're getting there. Yeah, we're getting there.
Okay.
Right, folks, I think we're almost there. It's just just before I finish. Although there was no actual roads report at our committee this time, but I would like to thank the administration for the additional capital funding that they've found of almost 1.8 million for the Caithness roads. This is very, very much welcomed, and the work has already started on some of the roads, and the public should start to see improvements over the next few months. We will have an update on the roads at our next Caithness committee. Also, just want to say, you might recall, sorry, at the last Caithness committee, it was agreed that we ask Highland Council to approach the Scottish Government for the urgent need for additional funds for our roads, especially in Caithness. This was approved by the full council, and a letter was sent to the Minister of Transport. A reply has been received, but I've not actually seen it, but I have asked to see it and waiting for it to receive the reply. But my understanding, the request was unsuccessful. And finally, I just want to say that I'm sure most of you will be aware that we had what they call a masonry collapse in Thurso a few weeks ago. Thankfully, no person was hurt, mainly because of the time the incident happened. I met with Councillor Rees at the scene, and it was quite a spectacle to see the several tons of masonry lying on the road and the pavement. I just wanted to put on public record my thanks to Police Scotland, who were very quick on the scene. Also, Transport Scotland through Bear Scotland, who also attended very quickly, and with some help from our roads department, set up diversions. Contractors were also quick to make the area safe, and the masonry was removed within a few hours. Praise should also go to the owners for the action they took. When safe, Highland Council surveyors inspected the building and neighbourhooding properly, and we should be getting the results of their inspections soon. I'd just like to remind members of the public that if they do see buildings which they think or suspect could be dangerous, they can report them to the Highland Council and we'll get a check done on that. So thankfully, as I said, there was no injuries. Well, I think that basically concludes our quite lengthy Caithness Committee meeting, but we covered a lot of stuff there. So thanks to all the members and officers who made the committee a success. Thanks very much, and we'll catch you all again. Bye just now.